Are you searching for the best in online black radio? Then go to blacktalkradionetwork.com, helping you filter through the noise. Real talk, black talk.
New app available for download on Google Play has some Asian Americans outraged. Take a look at this. It's called Make Me Asian, and it lets users change the way they look by reshaping their eyes or adding Fu Manchu mustaches and rice paddy hats to their picture. Google says it's a fun app that can make you look Chinese, Japanese, or Korean. But Asian American groups say it's offensive and racist. Google tells CNN they will pull the app if it is determined that it violates policies against hate speech. I want to know how that got through in the first place.
I should be clear. I did make a comment that Will had downloaded the app. Will has nothing to do with it. I was teasing Will.
Thank you.
Just to be clear.
You know, we were making the reference of you going to the South during the election campaign,
right,
putting on a cowboy hat, and Will joking with you. That
he thought I might be mocking folks, and I thought, no, I'm just getting into it. I thought that was fun.
Right.
Nonsense.
Will does not want to get baited into this conversation.
Nonsense. Here's what's interesting about this.
You felt I was mocking people wearing Texas Longhorn.
You wore a Texas Longhorn t-shirt. That was offensive to me as your friend being an Aggie. But look, I think also there's a difference between whenever these kind of things happen, people say it's racist, and then you say offensive. I think we make a mistake when you go all the way to say it's either racist or it's not racist. It could be offensive to some. It could be fun to others. That's the mistake that we make whenever these sort of topics come up.
It might. You were pointing out, Will, that it just might just be bad taste.
Yeah.
It might just be bad taste, but I mean, I think the person to table with the most perspective on this is Alina, and Alina, you did say you found it offensive, or did you say racist? In fact, that's to Roland's point.
I find it offensive. I mean, I find it a bit racist. I think that the bottom line is this: that it plays into stereotypes.
Right.
So you put a rice paddy hat on somebody, a Fu Manchu mustache on somebody. I think it plays.
Here's the
stereotypes.
fascination.
Okay, so what if the app just changed features?
I was going to say that. What if it gave you features?
But still, I mean, you're still dealing with the stereotype.
I agree.
But here's the deal. You have apps out there that also change their features to say, okay, this is how you're going to look as an old person.
Right.
This is how you're going to look if you're 50 pounds heavier.
Or skinnier.
Right.
And so
I think I would have less of a problem with that. I think I'd have less of a problem with that.
There is a Make Me Indian
but
app
it
out
still
there
makes
as
me feel a little bit uncomfortable, to be honest with you. Yeah,
Because the assumption is that there are certain characteristics that make you look X. Now, if you're talking about older, I mean, everybody kind of goes through that.
But there are characteristics that make you look black or Asian or Indian.
So how about this here? So when you get the Michael Jackson black or white video,
not everyone fits that. Right?
No, hold on a second. Michael Jackson had a video black or white, where literally there are people who are white, and then their faces they sort of had this mixed in the black. Question: is that offensive?
Right.
That's all.
I'm just curious.
That's an interesting conversation. All right, we've undecided. The jury will be back on this one later.
Context of White Supremacy. Justice Gus T Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Today's date, Wednesday, December 4th, 2013. So I have been told we will be back on Friday. Last installment, our study session on 12 Years a Slave, Solomon Northup. His autobiography, as told to David Wilson, currently in the theaters. Told folks it was not going to be very long. The book is not too long. We will be wrapping everything up this week. So if you have seen the film, if you've been following along, if you have some final thoughts that you want to get in on the text, this Friday is your chance. We'll be back at the regular broadcast time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, and 5 p.m. Pacific. Tune in Friday. Looking forward to hearing from everyone. Hope everyone was able to keep up with things. We're on an hour later than we normally are. I know some folks, they were caught a little bit off guard. They were expecting us to be here a little while ago, but we started an hour late. Hopefully that will not impact the constructive value of the broadcast. The sound clip that you heard at the beginning, just from earlier this year, and there were quite a few examples that I could have chosen just from this year alone with regards to racism, white supremacy being directed specifically at individuals who are classified as Asian in this area of the world. I think we talked about that a while back. They had the app Make Me Asian, in my view, blatantly racist. I was also thinking I was going to go, they just had the anchor, I think Julie Chen, might be inaccurate with the name, but she just did the segment. This was much more recent, where she was talking about how she was told that she would not go very far in her broadcasting career because she looks too Asian, and how that impacted her to having eye surgery and all of that. Another example of how racism, white supremacy impacts non-white people. One of our listeners, he messaged me on Twitter just earlier, I think towards the end of November, and he said it would be so helpful if we could get more non-white people, specifically he was saying Asian people, learning about, interested in fighting against racism, white supremacy, tuning into this program and or other programs that offer information on what racism is, how it works, the best way to go about attempting to replace the current system of racism, white supremacy, with a system of justice. And he forwarded me a few of the videos from our guest for today's program where he was talking about racism. No surprise there. If you are a non-white person, it's definitely going to be a problem for you. But I thought it would be grand. We could get him on the program and talk about his experiences, break down some of the subjects that he brings up in his various videos, and just exchange views. I always think it's great for different groups of non-white people to exchange views, their observations, experiences, and suggestions on ways to neutralize individuals who practice racism. Our guest, he's joining us live from the area of the world known as Chicago, Illinois. He is an instructor, manages his own business, teaching fitness, self-defense, meditation, and Zen Martial Arts. He is a big proponent of balance, spiritual, mental, physical balance, and well-being, in addition to providing instructions for overall health and well-being. He has written books and taken time to address racism. You can visit his YouTube channel. I'll put it up on my Facebook page. I'll also tweet it out as well, so you can see some of his content. In addition to talking about racism, he also offers tips on healthy nutrition and stretching and various aspects to do with his business, as I said, in fitness, self-defense, well-being. Real pleasure to have him on the program, hear more of his views. Joining us live, our guest, Mr. Freddie Lee. Mr. Lee, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Outstanding. So glad to have you in the house this evening. Glad you could share a bit of your Wednesday evening for folks. Maybe they have not visited the YouTube channel yet. If you could tell them any information you think would be helpful for them to know about you and the work that you do.
Well, I focus, basically, I'm a martial arts instructor. That's what I mainly focus on. But I do a lot of concentration on fitness because martial arts is like a higher development than just basic fitness. It incorporates a lot of spiritual growth as well, and also combative training. And basically, it's like it's like turning a regular human being almost into like a superhuman being, and really there's a lot of training involved, and just basically in this type of culture, they're not really ready for that type of training. So I end up focusing a lot on the fitness because people generally have just the time for that. So I do a lot of the fitness training, and when it comes to the YouTube channel, that's my time to be creative and expressive, to basically just put anything else out, anything out there that I want to basically, in a way, try to give feedback to better the world in a positive way. That's why I make videos about racism, because this is something that needs to be spoken about, and people need to learn about it, and they need to hear the truth about it. And really, a lot of times, you're not going to hear the truth in mass media. It's just sometimes the truth is just too hard to handle. And when I make videos on things like racism and all the other things that I see that are corrupted in this society, I'm very blunt with what I have to say, and I have a lot of controversial videos. I mean, even just tonight, somebody called my home, and my wife told me, and the person was complaining about a video I put out there about the death of Paul Walker. A lot of people call me and complain about the things I say, about, criticizing MMA, mixed martial arts. So there's a lot of criticism coming my way, but I think that the truth needs to be told. And, some inspirations that I have are, like Malcolm X, Tupac Shakur, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. They did a very good job of just expressing the truth. But at the same time, you notice that they're all been assassinated. So there's kind of like a fine line between fame and being truthful. And what I like about what I do is, because I'm underground and relatively not too well known, I'm able to be very truthful with what I say. And I'm glad to be on this show to basically, be truthful about racism, because I see it from many different angles. Because my background, I am Chinese American. I was born here in Chicago, and I've suffered a lot of racism throughout my life. But at the same time, I grew up around, a lot of African Americans, and I basically have a lot of friends that are African American, and I hung out with them a lot, and I'm really into that culture, and I almost feel like I'm black inside. So it's like I'm Chinese on the outside, but inside I feel like I'm black. And then when people are racist towards blacks, it hurts me just as much as them being racist towards Chinese. So it's like I have a dynamic understanding of this racism, and it's really good to speak about it because I think people need to hear it.
Fascinating. It would be great to get more information. I encourage folks who are listening in, if you have questions, feel free. Dial in the number 760-569-7676, and the code is 564943 pound. Press star 6 if you have questions. I'll be sure to give out the number a few more times as we roll. You already shared, I guess you said you Chinese American, so you are a non-white male, Chinese American specifically. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. You've mentioned many of your videos, and folks can visit the YouTube channel, Freddie's Modern Kung Fu YouTube channel, Freddie's Modern Kung Fu. You mentioned racism in many of your videos and a few times already during the broadcast. What is your definition of racism?
Well, my definition of racism is basically somebody that is, disrespecting and viewing themselves to be superior over another human being simply because of their skin color. Nothing more but than just that. That's pretty much what I view racism to be, like just a white person that thinks he's better than a black person just because he's white, or better than an Asian person just because he's white. It's almost like a superiority complex that they have, that they were born to be superior. Kind of like people, I think a lot of people could relate, because, people that live in America think that they're, a lot of times they're very spoiled in America, and they feel like, we're better because we're born in America. We're better than people in China. We're better than people in Africa. So that's part of racism. Or people that think that their language is better than another language. Then they poke fun of the way Chinese people talk because to them it sounds funny. They like to make fun of that. That's being racist. Thinking, Chinese people will look different than a white person. So the Chinese person might have a different texture of hair. So if a person starts making fun of Chinese person's hair in a way that could be perceived as racist. Or a white person that makes fun of a black person's hair because the texture of his hair is different. He was born that way. That's a part of racism. And people don't really understand that. They think, I'm just making fun of their hair. But no, I think it goes deeper than that. Just the way that the Chinese person looks different than a black person, looks different than a white person. And just making fun of those physical features is a part of racism. Making fun of the way that they speak, as far as their language, is a part of racism. Even making fun of maybe the way that they dress. There's might be like traditional Chinese ways of dressing, and then they making fun of that racism. Basically, like putting down other cultures is a part of racism. And it's not just about the skin color. To me, it's about not accepting other cultures, not being open to other cultures, and just basically it's a lot of bullying, a lot of poking fun at a way, also like making fun of a person's accent. If somebody's Polish and they're trying to speak English and they got a certain accent, once you start making fun of that accent, to me that's a part of racism. Because now you feel that everybody has to speak exactly the way that you speak. And when they don't speak like you make fun of that, and that's part of racism. Racism to me is very dynamic. It goes beyond just the simple skin color, but there's a lot of things involved with it that makes it very difficult to combat, because we're talking about racism in a capitalistic society that promotes like competition amongst human beings. And in a way, racism is an extension of competition. So say there's a white person that might not be as smart as a Chinese person. He might have got a lower ACT score. So then he gets jealous. Okay, I might not be as smart as you, but I'll make fun of you because you're Chinese and I'm better than you because I'm white. So I'll make fun of the way that you talk. I'll make fun of the way that you look. I'll make fun of you because you're not as tall as me. And they'll attack the Chinese person as much as they possibly can because they feel jealousy with other areas of development that they feel that they're in lack of. And that basically is one of the hugest problems. And then you got the law that tries to step in and says, let's make it against the law for people to, discriminate people based on race. But there's no laws against like discriminating people against height or weight. So people will, they know that they can't make fun of somebody's race because then that's a taboo thing and that's something that's not accepted by society. So what they'll do is start making fun of, people being fat, people being short, people being anorexic looking. They'll make fun of whatever they can that's not protected by law. And basically, essentially, the main problem is this superiority complex. This we feel that we're better than other human beings just because. Okay. And racism is basically a very hurtful thing because people are born with a certain skin color and they can't really change that. So that's one of the things about racism that makes it more difficult.
Do you think it's possible for a non-white person to practice racism against a white person?
Yes.
How would a non-white person practice racism against a white person? And then can you think of some specific examples where non-white people have practiced racism against white people?
So a non-white person practicing racism against a white person is just basically having just pure hatred towards the whites. In a way, it's almost like, when Malcolm X first started out, it's almost like he redirected the racism towards the whites at the beginning until he went to Mecca, and then he realized that, hey, that's not the right way to do it because, there are white people out there that basically are not racist and there are good people. Like, basically, it's easier to attack an opponent when you know exactly who the opponent is. So this black against white is easier for the blacks to turn against all the whites and be like, you guys are evil and we need to rebel. But it's not so clear cut because there's white people that actually support the black people more than they support their own race. And then there's black people which hang on,
I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. You said there are white people that support black people more than they support their own race. That would be other white people. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Who are these white?
I've met people like that where they're actually they're so engulfed into the black culture, like that they fight in the struggle with the blacks. So a famous person I'll use an example is someone like John Lennon. He was fighting for equality. He was fighting for peace in the Vietnam. He didn't want no Vietnam War. So and his wife was even an Asian woman. Mm-hmm. In a way, he's fighting for the Asians' rights. He didn't want the Vietnam War. So even Muhammad Ali is like, you know what? I'm not going to Vietnam. They didn't do nothing wrong to me. They didn't do nothing to me. So I'm not going to Vietnam War. In a way, he was standing up for the Vietnamese. There are white people out there that actually do see what's going on, and they want to basically try to help fix the problem. There's not that many of them, but they are out there.
Oh, okay, hang on 1 second. That huge right there off the bat, regardless of your next response, that there are not that many of these people anyway. But the few number that you think are there, you said John Lennon. You said he was one example. I didn't hear anything specific that you named that he did specifically to support black people. You said he married an Asian female, which I think that's true. And you said that he spoke out against the Vietnam War. I don't really see how that's, doing something specifically to help black people. And you said that there are white people who support black people more than they support white people. I still haven't really heard any evidence or specific example of a white person doing something to help out black people and helping black people more than they help out white people. Do you have like a modern day example of a white person like this who's still alive, and specifically what they're doing to help black people or non-white people in general?
Well, like, there's people that I've encountered in my life. Now, I'm using John Lennon as an example because if he could do it for Asian, he could obviously do it. There's somebody out there that can obviously do it for another race. So there's that possibility. And also, like, an example, I don't know too much about him, but someone like Eminem. He's so into the black culture that basically just being a part of that rap game is already like almost turning toward against his own race. Because that's not what the white people enjoy doing. But he's so into it that it's like he's not even black. I mean, he's not even white. He's like black on the inside, white on the outside. So I'll use myself as an example. I used to be a police officer, and I would actually see racial profiling going around where police officers were racially profiling black people. And I'm not black, but I felt that was wrong. And I felt that, you know what, this is wrong. And I want to stand up for the blacks. You know what I'm saying? Because that's not right. And basically, I'm not white, I'm Chinese, but, basically what I'm saying is that there's always that potential in a human being to see what the problem is and be like, I don't want to contribute to that problem. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
I definitely want, because you have some YouTube videos where you talk about your experience as a police officer, and I want to talk about that because you talk about how you yourself were a victim of racism while you were working, and seeing how black people were also being victims of racism. But just this is an important point I want to make, because I think many times non-white people that I've heard, they cut white people some slack, and it's not about hating white people. I think anyone who's listening to my broadcast, I don't preach, jump up and down and get angry, yelling, talking about hating white people. It's just about trying to be accurate, trying to be precise. The two examples that you gave of white people who you said helping black people more than they help white people, I don't think those are valid examples of the point that you made. Number one, I would say emphatically, a white person marrying a non-white person or being sexually engaged with a non-white person, that to me does not constitute help. There are too many examples for me to name of explicitly racist white people who've had no problem marrying non-white people, even having sexual intercourse with non-white people, producing children with non-white people. So that doesn't mean anything to me at all. In fact, I think that's one of the worst things a white person can do, to get in bed with a non-white person. I think that just promotes racism, has done so for a long, long time. If that was going to solve this problem, we would not be having this discussion. The problem would have been taken care of centuries ago. To the second point, but specifically with Eminem, I feel like, if anything, he is a sad continuation of one of the really ugly ways that white people practice racism with regards to appropriating. Really, it's just theft of things that non-white people do. I think they have done this with music over and over and over. Eminem has even talked about this in some of his songs, the fact that he would not be so popular if he were not a white person. With Elvis Presley, same thing. Someone who never wrote a single song. All he did was steal music, art forms of black people, theft, and then go out and do it himself, and has this whole monumental career where people call him the king. Same thing with Eminem, where he's now referenced as one of the greatest rap artists of all time. And it's just him being a white person, he can have that sort of stature. He can have that sort of fame, and he's still alive. Not like Tupac or Notorious B.I.G., some of the other people that I hear get named as being greatest of all time who really stood up and made a stand where, okay, they did that and they're dead, and white people get to make a lot of money after they've been buried. I really have not seen where Eminem has done anything. Yeah, he's made a lot of money. I've heard where he's talked about racism here or there, but I really have not seen where he's done anything specifically to help black people. Maybe he signed a black artist. Maybe he had some help in getting 50 Cent on or some other black musicians. But I have not seen anything where he's made substantial efforts to help black people. Certainly not where I would say, yeah, he's done a lot more to help out black people than other white people. So that would be, and I could be in error. I'm no expert on racism, but I just don't see I can't think of any white person that I would say, yeah, this white person helped out black people more than they've helped out other white people. Modern, dead, anybody. I wouldn't even put John Brown on that list. Is what I just said. Does that make sense, or am I talking crazy?
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. I mean, really, what it boils down to is just that we have like different life experiences, and when you don't you meet different people than I meet, obviously, and it's just dynamic because you have different life experiences. You meet different people, and I could almost agree that in mass media, there's really not that many famous white people that you would actually see that they're really helping a lot. As far as for the minorities, but in my life I've met people, like a white woman, for example, that I was in high school with, where she's very engulfed into like the black culture, and she would like study, a lot about their, about their culture, and she had a lot of black friends, and she was almost like a black person, but she was just white on the outside. And I've met people like that, in my life, and I just feel that there's that potential, and that for example, if a black person, clearly there are a lot of examples in my life where I know that a black person turns against his own race and basically is like whitewashed and basically suppressing black men. It's like the black police officers out there that are just beating down their own race of people because they're just basically brainwashed and turned into puppets. So some people might even view Barack Obama to be like that. So if that could be the case, then it's obvious that the other way around is also possible as well, where a white person sees like all these things that's wrong with what is going on, and they actually side with the blacks more than they do with the whites. Because for me, that's kind of what happened. Is like when I was like growing up as a little kid, there was like a few white people making fun of my race, and I wasn't gonna jump onto their team because they're the ones making fun of me. So then I was like, I don't want to be, pretty much as a child, I was like, I don't want to be Chinese anymore. So then what am I going to do? So then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna side with the blacks. So now I want to be black. So then I'm Chinese on the outside, and then now I want to be black. So there are a lot of like white people out there that love the hip hop culture or whatever the case may be, and then it's like they want to be black. They want to be in the struggle. They want to kind of try to live the hard life. There's people out there like that. I know there are because I've met them. And they're not famous, but I know that there's people out there like that. So,
I would definitely agree with that. I think I've met some white people. I think we've even had a few on the program who said that they wanted to be black. J. Love Calderon, white female, comes to mind. Excuse me. Who said that they want to be black. But again, it would go back, just trying to be precise about the question, that she did not share anything with me that revealed that she has done more to help out black people than white people. Listening to a lot of black musicians or wearing clothing that is associated with black people, talking in a manner that is associated, stereotyped to be the way that black people talk, all of those things, that does not offer any tangible benefits to black people. And to me, it's certainly not evidence of you helping black people out more than white people. But,
in a way, in my opinion, though, if a white person buys like 1,000 CDs that are all black artists, they're helping the black entertainment industry. If a white person's like watching all black movies that are made by black directors, they're helping the business grow. So I mean, that's like feeding into the black community. The white person goes into a Jamaican restaurant, spends all their money in the Jamaican restaurant, they're helping that business grow. They go into the black community and they spend their money in the black community, it's helping the business grow. So where to spend their money is important.
Absolutely. Where you spend your money, what you spend your money on, absolutely, it is important. I wanted to get, if you could share about your experience with a police officer. I think it's important, particularly with regards to entertainment. And really, for me, it goes back to my definition of racism, which I didn't share. We have a different definition of racism, so I think that's going to probably impact how we see things, where we might have slight differences here or there through the course of the conversation. I'll just give my definition of racism really quick. A global system of people who classify themselves as white and are dedicated to abusing and or subjugating everyone in the known universe whom they classify as not white. That's my definition, and I use the term racism and white supremacy as synonyms, meaning the same thing. According to my definition of racism, it is not possible for a non-white person to practice racism. I'm a black male. It is not possible for me to practice racism. You are a non-white male, Chinese American specifically. According to me, it would not be possible for you to practice racism. And I say that because we'll take entertainment, since you just brought that up. You were saying a white person, if they go out and buy 1,000, if they buy 1,000 Nas CDs or Jay-Z CDs, Lil Wayne CDs, Drake CDs, that is supporting the black community. I do not agree. And I think the evidence shows that people who get the most money off of the sales of those albums, Kanye West, Nicki Minaj, whomever it is white people. And I think many of those artists have said this. Many of them publicly have said this on various songs, interviews. The people who make the most money are white people. In fact, there was just the BBC, they just did a news segment, I think it was Friday, it aired, where they were just talking about this, and they were saying that a lot of people would be misled to think, well, we've got Lil Wayne now, we've got Nicki Minaj now, and these people, they're making lots of money and selling all these albums all over the world, and you really have to do some more digging. Not talking about you, but she was just saying in general, people would have to do more digging to see, do they have distribution? Can P. Diddy or Jay-Z, can they get their album out on their own or through other black people all over the world? No. They have to go through white people. And that's what I mean when we talk about a system of racism, white supremacy. You mentioned films. Same thing. You go see a black film, not even that there are that many of those, but black directed film, black cast, black script, all that. White people still are going to make the most money off of that because we're in a system of racism, white supremacy. It's not white people who are struggling, who are making complaints that black people are keeping them from getting housing or jobs or any of that. It's non-white people who have those complaints about white people being in charge and controlling everything worldwide, having this complaint that white people have a disproportionate amount of power with regards to determining what's going to happen anywhere on the planet. And I think that's very important to kind of keep that front and center whenever there are discussions on racism, determining who is a racist, and determining, whether or not a white person, if they're being helpful, if they're doing things to try to help out, whether it's buying CDs or whatever the case may be. I just think it's very important to keep that power differential at the forefront of the conversation with regards to white people having way more power than non-white people, way more control of resources, and even a lot of times when things appear as though a black person is in charge, even in the case of the White House, it's white people that are really in charge. It's white people that are allowing all this to happen. It's white people that are calling the shots. I submit I could be in error, but I hope that's something people will think about as we roll through the program. In fact, I think where I wanted to go next, I wanted you to share. You said that you worked as a police officer in the Chicago area. I wanted you to talk about that experience a little bit. What was it like? What were the demographics? Like, how many white officers were there? How many non-white officers? How many black officers? The racism that you experienced, racism that you saw happening to other people. If you could kind of give us some of the background on that, I think that might even be another example of what I'm talking about how white people are always in charge of what's going on.
Okay, so I was a police officer at Northwestern University, and I went to the police academy in Chicago and everything. When I first got hired, it was great. I loved the job and everything. I got into the force, and basically most of the officers there were white. The force maybe had like 30 officers, and I'd say maybe like 20 of them were white, and you might have like 7 African Americans, and then maybe like 1 or 2 Asians, a few Hispanics. So it was like mainly whites, but it did have some blacks, some Hispanics, a couple of Asians, and basically I was working. The chief of police was actually black, and then the person below him was white, and then it was basically the assistant chief was white, and then the commander, which is below the assistant chief, was black. Now there was a history of racism within that police, within that department, like a long history. And the blacks had to fight really hard to get in those positions of supervisory positions. They had to go through a lot of like racism from white officers over there that were suppressing them. And there was like a lot of like racism between the whites and the blacks before I got there. There was 2 like locations, one in Chicago, one in Evanston, and they would pretty much just throw all the black officers in the Chicago location and keep all the white officers in the Evanston location to separate them. And there was like a lot of like racism going on in the history where, things were being said. One of the officers got called like the N-word by a supervisor. He filed a complaint, and then he ended up like getting some money out of it. And there was just like other things that happened, where there was a lot of tension involved. And I was basically the second Asian officer to ever be hired. There was one Asian officer that was hired before me, and then I was the second one to be hired. So when I first got in there, everything seemed to be great. I loved the job, but then, comments would be thrown my way like every so often. I worked there for 4 years, and through a period of time, people were saying certain things to me. There was like a white supervisor that said to me on several occasions, he was walking into the locker room. He was like shouting out, "Oh, those fucking chinks, those goddamn chinks! I can't stand those fucking chinks." He said that shit like at least a couple times. So that happened, and then there was another white officer that ended up saying like a couple times, like making fun of things, with the Chinese saying like ching chong, stuff like that. And then like I had a white supervisor, was making fun of the way that my hair looked. And then, there was another white officer that was like saying stuff like that, making fun of me, saying that I looked like a baseball player called like Fudamoki from the Cubs. And then he would like talk about that and make everybody laugh at me and stuff like that. And, there was one time where he just basically was standing next to another Asian officer, and then I walk into the room, and then he looks at me and he says, "Oh, there goes another one of them." And then basically I just suffered a lot of like, things like this. And then I ended up complaining about it, to try to make it stop. I didn't really complain like to the supervisors. All I did was I just emailed the people that were saying like these disrespectful things to me. I just emailed them and told them the stuff that they said, and said, that I don't appreciate it. I want you guys to stop. And then one of the officers gave that that email to the supervisor. And then basically the supervisor approached me and, said what I want to do with it. And I said, I just wanted them to stop. But then since the supervisor found out, I was like, what am I going to do now? So then I felt that my job was going to be in jeopardy, because now they were upset at me because the supervisor found out. So I decided, what, I might as well just go to the human resource with the whole thing and see if they could help the situation. So we went to human resources, and it just basically, it just got worse from there. I mean, they didn't help in any way. I mean, they just basically they almost pretty much made it worse, and it just kept escalating and escalating, and then the point where we just stopped talking to each other. I just went to work and I wouldn't talk to anybody. Like, the only officers that would talk to me were like the black officers, and a lot of the white officers wouldn't even talk to me, and it was just a lot of tension. But I just kept going to work, try to stay happy, and then eventually one day I went to work, and then I had like 3 pairs of shoes like by my locker, and somebody threw all my shoes like all over the room. And then it was like all over the room, you know, my shoes were everywhere, and I was upset. I was like, you know what? Like, I felt that one of these guys that were saying all this racial stuff to me, they threw my shoes everywhere. So I complained again. And then I complained again, and then all of a sudden they pretty much like they put me on leave, and they're saying, you know, that, you know, I'm at fault. They're trying to accuse me of being at fault, and it's just like it just went downhill from there. You know, that I contacted the Chicago Tribune, and they interviewed me, and then they made an article about what happened to me, and then I had to go, you know, they ended up wrongfully terminating me, and then I filed a lawsuit, and the lawsuit didn't go my way because they just had too much money. They hired like some really high-priced attorneys to fight the case, and my attorney really had that much experience, and, you know, I didn't really get anything. I didn't get nothing out of it. You know, I spent like thousands of dollars to fight against it, but, you know, in the end, I didn't get any money out of it or nothing, and basically I lost the job. And then that's when I had to figure out something else to do, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. You know, and also when I was employed, you know, I would see like the different treatment, you know, between the whites and the blacks, and, you know, there's certain white officers that would basically like wait, you know, but pull over blacks and just like give the blacks, you know, speeding tickets or like traffic tickets, and they would like arrest the black person for like basically finding a phone. They'd arrest the black person, but then a white person does a felony and they let the white person go. You know what I mean? They'd be just doing stuff like that. It's just like crazy. You know, it's just a lot of like unequal treatment and favoritism over there. And, you know, like, you know, they'll be pulling over people like that are known like football players, you know, for the university, and they'll always let them go, but then they'll pull over a black person and they'll write them up. You know, it's just like seeing stuff like that, you know, just kind of like really disappointed me, and I didn't want to be a part of that. I mean, I didn't want to contribute to that, but, you know, it's just something that, you know, seeing it happen, and then experiencing those things that I did, it just changed my whole life perspectives on a lot of different things. You know, and when the whole thing happened, I lost my job and everything. You know, nobody was really there to help me, because there wasn't that many Asian officers, and the blacks they didn't want to lose their jobs, and there was somebody that sent me like an anonymous letter to like try to help me, but basically, you know, I was on my own, and I didn't really get much support. And even the person in the EEOC mentioned that, you know, if I was black, you know, they would be able to do something more, but since I'm Asian, they can't really do much, because basically, you know, this is what we got to deal with. If we don't really have much support. If you're an Asian person, when it comes to racism, you don't really have much support. But I see that they have more support. You know, things are taken more seriously. You know what I mean? What that one black person, you know, black officer got called the N-word, and all of a sudden they paid him out money right away. But when it came to me, they're calling me all this different stuff, and then I'm the one that gets fired. You know, it's just ridiculous. So that's pretty much what happened.
I had 2 quick questions. Thank you for sharing. That right there, major reason every Saturday, compensatory call-in, the last hour, workplace racism. I've said consistently, I think it is impossible to get 5 non-white people together and nobody has a problem with racism on the job. Everyone is being treated correctly. I just do not believe that. Every Saturday, last hour of the program, workplace racism, because I think too many people, they have the exact same experience that you just shared, being on the job, being terrorized by whites, and having no resources, no help, and feeling all alone and helpless and trying to deal with it, and frustrated. The 2 quick questions. Number 1, going back to what you said earlier, were there any of these white people who were willing to stand up and help you help you even more than they were willing to help out their own white race? Did any white people step to the forefront and say, hey, Mr. Lee, this is totally wrong. You're a victim here, and I want to do everything that I can to help out?
I mean, the quick answer to that is no, but you know, they just have that like automated like fake response, like, oh, you know, but yeah, it's no. I mean, the assistant chief was a white guy, and he's like acting as if, you know, he's on my side, but really he was there to protect his people. You know, under just basically using, they're just required to act as if they're trying to help, but they're not helping. They're actually like finding ways to get rid of you. You know, because basically you either have to put up with it or you get out. That's pretty much the options you have. You can't. No, there's not. You know, there's no way that you could win. I mean, it would have been better if they're just straightforward with me and said, you know what, if you keep complaining like this, you're gonna get fired. Just stop complaining. Just put up with it. You know, if they would have just said that, it would have been fine. But they're just like acting as if, oh, you know, we're gonna make things better, and these are your rights, and here's the HR, this is here to help you. The HR wasn't there to help. They're actually there to hide all the racism in the university, and they're there to terminate all the minorities that complain. That's what HR is there for. You know, and it's just ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just there for nothing. It's just there as like just to be there, just to satisfy the government requirement to make it seem as if there's a safe haven for minorities when there isn't. Because what they do, as soon as you complain, they start looking at you as the enemy. And they start pointing, you know, they're like, we're going to have to find a way to get rid of this person. They're not there for you. They're there to protect the people in power or the whites or whatever. I mean, it's you know, and for me, knowing that the way that it is right now, if I ever was a police officer again, now that I know how it is, I just had to put up with it because there's nothing you could do about it. There's absolutely nothing, because you're just gonna get fired. You know, because for me, I appreciated the job. I got paid to me it was a lot of money, and I barely had to do anything. It was an easy job, and you know, there's people in China that are working for like 25 cents an hour. I mean, they're like dirt poor over there. So for me to make all this money and all I gotta do is put up with a few like racist remarks, it's not that big of a deal for me. Whatever, I'll put up with it. Or I would have dealt with it a different way. I would have just face to face just told them to shut the hell up, or we're just gonna box it out or something. I mean, then they would have shut up. But knowing how it is, the EEOC and the HR is absolutely useless. It's like there for nothing. It's there as soon as you complain, they already know that now you're like a target. They're gonna you. You're like under radar. Now they put me on the radar. As soon as I complain, like everything, they just put me on the radar. Like any little thing that I did wrong, they were aiming to write me up. I had to like be perfect. Not just for like that moment, but perfect for the rest of my career. Because it stays in the back of their mind. I mean, 5 years later, they're still aiming to get rid of me. That's how they operate over there. You know, they hold grudges. Oh, this person complained to HR. Oh, you know, 5 years later, they're gonna find you making a mistake, and then they're gonna get rid of you. That's what they do. You know, because basically, like as soon as you go to HR, it's like in their eyes, you're turning against the brotherhood or the family or whatever, and they view you as an enemy. So you basically have to just put up with it and just shut up and just let it and just make your money and go home. That's pretty much what the reality is. You know.
One other question. I also wanted to remind folks: this is not just random white people. You know, just no count old white people that gets brought up a lot. These are not 80-year-old white people in Mississippi or Alabama or Georgia. These are the white people that you call on to protect and serve. This is supposed to be Northwestern University's finest. The people, when you have a problem, there's a potential mugger, rapist, my house has been burglarized, and I need help. These are the people that you call if you're on the campus of Northwestern. Just wanted to get that in. But you said that, I guess at one point in this whole trifling, tacky ordeal where you're being terrorized, that I guess one of the human resources folks or EEOC people said that if you were black, that they might be able to offer a little bit more help. And that was a little confusing because I thought, if I heard correctly, I thought you said that you observed where the enforcement officers at Northwestern, they would, your term, racially profile. They would just go out and harass random black people and give them a ticket and stop them and all that for no reason. That would seem to me to contradict, like, if black people have some sort of extra help or assistance, if racism is being practiced against them, then why couldn't these unjust incidents of quote-unquote racial profiling, why couldn't these incidents be stopped immediately?
Well, I'm talking in regards to like the police officers. So like the blacks, there were more black officers than Asian officers, and there was black officers in positions of power. So there might be around 10 black officers, and like the chief is black, the commander is black, and then there's black supervisors, and then there's black officers on top of that. So they're like together to help, like, to protect each other. But for me, I'm like the only Asian, and then there's like one other Asian, or the Asian that was there before me, like, quit and went to another department. I was like the only one there. And then they hired like 2 other new Asians that are newbies. I have nobody there like helping me, like fight, like supporting me. So basically, when you have like black officers that are in positions of power, and then you're a black person or a black officer that is experiencing racism, you just have more support because they're black too, and then they're fighting for you too. And basically, like, they like, for example, this is something that happened at Northwestern. Like, there was some white people that went around it, that Northwestern students, white people, went around, they on Halloween, they painted their faces black. And then they went around, they thought it was funny. But then there's black people that said, that shit's not fucking funny, that's racist. And then they called the news and everything, and then they made a big deal out of it. I mean, it was all over the news, and they had like the president of the university held like a meeting with everybody in the university about it. I mean, they made a big deal about it, But with my incident, like, nobody even cared. Like, we tried to make like a meeting, and only like less than like 30 people showed up. But then for the blackface, there was like over 1,000 showed up to support that. So basically, when it comes to blacks, they know how to help each other more. But when it comes to Asians, the Asian personality is just a lot more like submissive. So they're more likely to just put up with racism rather than fight back. You would never imagine an Asian person doing what Malcolm X did or Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. No, an Asian person just be like, you know what? It is what it is. I'm just gonna just shut up. Asian people don't fight back. You can't imagine an Asian person being like Tupac Shakur. Black people, they know how to fight back. But then at the same time, what ends up happening is the drawbacks of it is like there's a lot of blacks in prison. I mean, it's a give and take. But Asians, they don't bond together. I mean, there's a lot of like hatred amongst Asians themselves. I mean, the Japanese don't get along with the Chinese. Chinese don't get along with the Vietnamese. I mean, they don't like each other. The Asians are just like loners, and that's why they keep getting bullied by everybody. Not just the whites, but they get bullied by some blacks too. So, I mean, not just whites and blacks, but just everybody's like there to bully the Asian because they ain't doing nothing. They're not gonna fight back. So hey, the white person's like, you know what? I'm kind of scared of the black person, so I'm not gonna bully him because he might beat my ass. So I'll bully the Asian guy because he ain't gonna do nothing. That's typically what happens. That's why there's so much racism against the Asians in the media, and everybody thinks it's okay. I mean, look at that movie Rush Hour. You got Chris Tucker, who's a black dude, talking hella trash about the Chinese all over the damn movie. Being a racist as hell towards the Chinese in that movie. And then everybody watches that movie, thinks that's okay. Oh yeah, let's go around saying to the Chinese person, let's tell them, do you understand the words coming out of my mouth, and some stupid stuff like that. So you got black people that are also seeing that and also saying, hey, let's bully the Asians. Because I'm sick of getting bullied by the whites, so now I'll just bully the. That's just how it goes. So Asians are taking a lot of the damage right now, as far as what I'm seeing.
There were a couple folks who had questions. Just quick comments. You said you couldn't imagine an individual classified as Asian doing what Malcolm X did, or what Dr. Martin Luther King, some of the other folks non-white people who've spoken out about racism. And I thought, well, we did have Pearl Harbor, and we did have Ho Chi Minh, Mao Zedong. I think there have been and continue to be some individuals who are classified as Asian who have had quite a bit to say about racism, white supremacy, and have even resorted to counterviolence in dealing with white people who were terrorizing them for, just because that's what they do. That was one. The second thing, and I was going to bring this up because you had a video about this as well, where you said that you felt that white people are scared of black people, and so they are hesitant, or they will not as readily abuse and bully black people the way that they would Asian people, because they perceive Asian people to be more submissive or less likely to fight back, kind of paraphrasing what you said. And I wanted to ask, how have you come to this conclusion that white people are afraid of black people? Like, how does this fear of black people manifest itself?
Well, I think a lot of it is due to the media and Hollywood. I mean, you see a lot of these movies out there, with these movies like Menace to Society, or just a lot of these movies where you see a lot of people with, playing like these black roles, playing like these very violent, these roles, and how they're robbing people, stealing or doing whatever. I mean, even that movie Crash, even Ludacris was mentioning that in the movie, like that people's minds conditioned, to basically, like, the way that they portray the blacks in the movies is portraying them a lot of times as criminals. Mm-hmm. And then when you keep watching those movies over and over again, it just makes you, it's just like the same thing that I was complaining about Rush Hour and how it made the Chinese look. It just made the Chinese look weak and just like they're the ones that get shit on. But with the blacks, you see all these movies, they're putting blacks in roles where they're committing all this crime. So then we keep watching all this stuff, and then you see it blasted all over the news, because that's what they do. I mean, they go into the black communities and they'll report all the crimes in the black communities. But then when it comes to like the white communities, they suppress all the crime. They act like nothing happened.
Right. I understand that point, but I guess let's see if I can pitch it this way. When you say scared of black people, right? Like when someone says, well, I'm scared of spiders, right? I know what that response looks like. There's a spider right there. The person who says I'm afraid of spiders, they run out of the room. Oh my God. They hop on a chair. They're trying to get as far away from the spider as they can. Someone who says, well, I'm afraid of crowds. When they are close to a crowd or near a crowd, they shut down. Same with the spider. They're not able to function. Like, they need help. They need someone to maybe hold their hand and get them away from the crowd so that they feel safe, so that they can function. Like, I have seen a fear response in people. With white people, even if they are afraid, and I've heard a lot of white people who say that they are afraid or intimidated or scared of black people, I haven't seen any evidence that this quote unquote fear causes whites to shut down. What I've seen is their response goes way over the top, not just bully, but Renisha McBride, Jonathan Farrell, where it's these people, it's always justified to use extreme violence in dealing with them. I was afraid, George Zimmerman, that tends to be what happens. Trayvon Martin, not that black people are excused from being bullied, but that black people are subject to extreme forms of violence because I was afraid, I felt threatened, my life was in danger, and I had to shoot this black person 40 times. Amadou Diallo. I had to shoot this black person 10 times because I was afraid. That tends to be what happens, not black people escape being bullied. Does that make sense, or are you not understanding what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. I see your point, but what I'm saying is that, like, a white person, it would be very unlikely for a white person to go up to a black person and just call them an N-word. You know what I'm saying? Because they know what's coming at them. So they won't say it. You know, so that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like they won't get as much verbal, like direct verbal taunting from the white person than an Asian person would. Like a white person would feel more comfortable calling an Asian person a chink than they would saying to a black person the N-word, or they'll feel more comfortable making fun of an Asian person's, like, the way his eyes are slanted than they would, like, making fun of a black person's, like, hair. Because they know that the black would respond, like, more aggressively. Basically, that's what I see. I mean, it's like, you see it in just the women. I mean, just like for the Asian women are typically stereotyped to be like just very submissive and just like very shy and timid. But then the stereotype for black women, they're very like expressive and very like fighting back verbally and even physically if they have to. That's from my experiences and what I've seen, you know what I mean? And that's basically what is, I mean, when you see the entertainment and the Hollywood, they express that too. I mean, I watched a lot of Dave Chappelle comedy, and he'd mention stuff like, you know, a white person in the middle of the ghetto, and then he'll just like lock his doors right away. I mean, he'll make jokes like that, and you know, you kind of understand those jokes because that's kind of how it is. You know, so it's kind of like based on my experiences, this is what like my understanding. Also interacting with certain white people where they would tell me, like, you know, like their thoughts and stuff. Like, for example, I used to, you know, when I was the officer, one of the officers was white, and he was one of the guys that made the racial comments to me. But he mentioned to me, like, he'd walk his dog, and then a black person would come up to him, and then he just, like, put his hand on his gun to get ready in case he gets robbed. You know what I'm saying? I was like, are you serious? The guy didn't even do anything. He just came up to you and asked you a question, and then you had your hand and your gun already. So I mean, they're not gonna like admit this stuff to like the whole world to know, but this is stuff that they tell me in private, stuff like that.
Fascinating. I want to make sure I get our listeners who dialed in with questions as well. The number one more time, 760-569-7676. And the code is 564943 pound. Press *6 if you have a question for Mr. Freddie Lee. Again, his YouTube channel, Freddie's Modern Kung Fu. You can check it out at YouTube. Lots and lots and lots of videos. Let's see, the person who dialed in, last four digits, 3557. Did you have a question for Mr. Lee? Your line should be open.
Hello there, Gus. You can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just want to ask, Mr. Lee, how does it make you feel that most white men carry the mentality stating that Asian women want them over Asian men? How does it make you feel as an Asian that most white men can come into your world and let you know that you're not even good enough for your own women?
I mean, it feels freaking horrible. I mean, I was pretty much prepared to live my life single for the rest of my life because I'm telling you right now, it's hard, it's extremely difficult for an Asian man to find any woman to be intimate with. Because really, the reality is, I mean, I see a lot of these Asian women going to the whites. And basically, I just see, like, being an Asian American, I see that as leading towards, like, the Asians in America. Where because if the Asian men can't even find any woman, they're just going to die off. And all the Asian women go to the white man or whatever, then, I mean, the Asian just ends up becoming extinct eventually. You know what I mean? Then it's just done. And then they close off the borders. They close off the access to America from the East. Then it's like shutting off the Asians from America. You know, and it's very sad to me. I see a lot of Asian women. A lot of them are extremely whitewashed. I mean, to the point where they're like not even. I don't even consider them Asians anymore because they're just like. There's a lot of Asian women out there that have a lot of self-hatred towards their own race, And that's why it's so hard for Asians to fight against racism, because you got their own people talking trash about their own race. And they give the rights for other people to talk trash about their own race as well, because they're very ashamed of themselves, and they don't want to be Asian. You know, they want to be white. They bow down to the whites. I mean, even the traditional Chinese, like even my parents, I'm sad to say, but they bow down to the whites. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like they accept. It's like the Asians pretty much accept the whites to be superior, and they almost enjoy it. It's like they enjoy them being the master. They don't fight like the blacks do to try to overtake the position of power. No, they accept them as the master, and then they're like, hey, you know, it's like I'm telling you, there's Asian families out there that pray for their daughter to marry a white man, because then to them that's wealth or something like that. They don't want nothing to do with even their own race, because that to them that's like they're just marrying a poor person. So they're looking at a mentality of like riches, where like where they'd rather have the woman marry an Asian or a white man, so then it brings more wealth into the family. You know, so it's very disappointing. I have a lot of Asian friends in the past. I'm telling you, like none of them have girlfriends. I mean, they're all like lonely as hell, and like they don't get no hugs, get no kisses. I mean, they're just like lonely as hell, and it's sad. Like how many Asian men that I know can't even find a female. You know what I'm saying? It's really sad. And for me, I'm surprised I even found one. But I mean, it's hard to find a woman out there, because not only do you have your race against you, but you also got your height. I mean, Asian people are small. So I mean, a woman, she don't want to date no short dude. She want a tall guy. She want a tall white guy, tall black guy. She want a rich man, and she want you know, she don't want nothing to do with her own race. That's from my experiences. And I got a sister, you know, and she pretty much had that mentality, you know, as well. But you know, now she's with somebody that's like half white, half Asian, but she had that mentality as well. You know, she would only date white guys. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot of and you see like a bunch of Asian women with white guys. You know, they don't even mess with them. You know, and an Asian guy to get with a white woman, shit, that's never gonna happen. Or an Asian guy getting with a black woman or whatever other race, it's very difficult. So it's like Asians can't even get women of their own race. They can't get it from other races either. So it's just kind of like they're just the ones that don't get nothing. You know, so it's a sad thing, very sad. You know, and you look at the media though. Look at Hollywood. I mean, there's no Asian American that people look up to, other than Bruce Lee, who died like 40 years ago. But which Asian American in Hollywood actually has respect? Like a Denzel Washington or a Will Smith or like a 50 Cent or like a Ludacris or like a Usher. I mean, where's the Asian American that's getting respect out there? None of them.
Jackie Chan and
No. Jackie Chan is a clown. He's a clown. He's not Asian American. Jackie Chan's fully Chinese, coming from China. And so is Jet Li. Jet Li barely even speaks English. He's coming straight out of China. You know, so no, that's not even. There's no Asian American. Bruce Lee was Asian American. That's the only one. And maybe Donnie Yen is Asian American. But they all have to go back to China to get fame. You know, so I don't see no respect going out there for the Asians at all. I mean, Asian Americans. You know, I mean, you got a lot of successful blacks out there. I mean, look at the whole NBA's blacks and NFL blacks. You know, entertainment industry in Hollywood. I just saw the movie just the other day. You know, The Best Man Holidays. All like pretty much all blacks in that movie. You know what I mean? You know, some of the blacks may complain, oh, there's not enough movies with all blacks. But where are the movies where it's all Asian? None. All those movies are coming out of China. You know what I'm saying? There's no Asian American movies. Yeah.
You may feel as if blacks may have it better in the entertainment world, but that's only because we are only accepted in the entertainment world. When it comes to economics and, you know, worldwide views, politics, all of that, we're not widely represented because black people fail in economics. Black people don't have a sense of, you know, knowing how to spend money. You know what I'm saying? You know, Asians to a certain extent is still accepted in a dominant white society. Black people are kind of treated like Meg from Family Guy. We are just somebody that everybody hates. If I was to ask Gus his nationality, where did he come from, what language did he speak before slavery, he's not going to tell you, because we don't know that. We don't know that. Our culture, our identity, our history, everything about us has been stripped away from us. A lot of people don't even realize the Egyptians were black. A lot of people don't realize this. Everything was stripped away from us. So as an Asian, to a certain degree, you are accepted in dominant white society. You are. And white supremacy affects Asians in China so much that they depict black people the same way whites used to depict black people in the minstrels, in the early cartoons in the 40s. But when it comes to racism, I don't think Asians are affected by it as worse as blacks are, because it's more targeted to us.
Yeah, I mean,
there was once a Black Wall Street that was destroyed because whites was afraid that blacks was doing better than them economically. And most people have this misconception of black culture. Most people think that black culture is rap. And it's like the late, I forgot his name, Heavy D said, most white producers wouldn't must produce their album because it had to be about drugs and sex and what was going on in the community. I think that most people, if you used to look at black people 40 years ago and look at black people now, black people today are a totally different product of black people back then. 90% of black people at historical black colleges receive college degrees. Black America today is socially engineered. It's made up. It's been plagiarized. It's been created. The way we act, the way we talk, the way we dress has been made up by society. We look different from everybody. There's nobody else on the planet that look the way we do. We're a rare breed of people. We're the only people that have the hair texture we have that look the way we look. Black people live in a world alone. We live in a world that everybody looks different from us. Everybody has straight hair. The only people on the planet with woolly hair, that's the most rarest kind of hair on the planet. You won't find it with any other race. That's all I wanted to say.
Appreciate it. Make sure we get all the folks who have calls in. The person who dialed in. Oh, this is 18-4. I thought she figured out how to use the free HD line. Maybe she didn't. 1804, did you have a question for Mr. Lee? Your line should be open.
Yes,
some static on your line. I can hear you, but there's a lot of like background interference. Oh, it cleared up. Try again.
Okay, how about now?
Still a little staticky.
All right. Well, I'll try to call back. This is the HD line, though.
Oh, okay. That is the HD line. The clarity will depend on the strength of your signal. I don't know if you're in a spot where you're getting a good clear signal or
what have you. But what I'm asking is, actually, that was a question. You can tell if I'm calling from a call from the HD line. So what happening?
I had a hard time hearing. I think you were asking something. Can I tell the difference when you call in from an HD line or a cell? I think that was your question.
Yes.
I thought you were calling in from your cell phone.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just call back, okay? I'll just call back.
Okay. Right on. We'll look out for her. I think this is Praz. I hope I have my lines correct. Praz, is this you?
No, this is Shadow.
Darn. Go ahead, Shadow. Good to hear from you, sir.
No problem, man. How you been?
Right poorly.
All right, then. Yes, I just wanted to say to Mr. Lee, I live in D.C. area now, but I used to live in Chicago, and I used to actually work at the UIC Medical Center. And some of the things that he says about Asian, a lot of the workers at the hospital, the nurses, and some of the medical staff were Asian, and we did have one Asian police officer there. And I would agree with him that from what I've seen, Asians tended to keep their head a little low, try not to get into stuff as much. But I would also say that they weren't attacked as overtly as blacks. Blacks fought back more because they kind of had to, just like he said, where they harass you, they arrest you, and what he said about once they target you like that, the HR departments where they start looking for any little thing that you do, I've definitely seen that happen to all types of non-white people in the university system at UIC, which I would guess is very similar to Northwestern's system. And the only thing I wanted to ask him was, you said that the HR department, once you complained, like you said, it was set up to protect the old boys system. Can you specifically name any of the things they started, like, looking out or writing you up for to get you out of there?
Well, it's not just my instance, but there's like instances of people that also complained in the past, like not just officers but other university workers, because I made contact with other Asian American workers at Northwestern that suffered discrimination and racism as well, and then they were trying to work close with me and my lawyer to try to fight back, but it was pretty much the same exact stuff that was going on. So basically, once you start complaining, they keep a log of you, and then what they do is they'll tell the supervisors pretty much like they need to like discredit you. So they need the supervisors to really like hone down on everything that you're doing. Like if you come late or something too much, or you know, like if you come, you know, just like whatever it is, like they'll find something, you know, like things that normally would be let go, like where it's not a big deal, they make it a big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's just it's like, I mean, it's just like that's what was going on. I mean, I had an incident, for example, that happened at my home where the police had to, like, you know, the police ended up getting called to my home, for example, and then they found out about it immediately. You know, and I didn't tell them. They found out about it immediately, and then they confronted me about it, and they pretty much put that in my file. You know what I mean? They would find whatever they can. I mean, I had to be perfect. I had to be literally perfect. You know what I mean? There was no room for mistake. You know, they would write me up as soon as they had the opportunity. And that's their aim, was to discredit me and everything. You know, and it was set up that way. I mean, it was just like, it's just a system that's designed to, like, basically what the HR is. They didn't even tell me that EEOC existed. I didn't even know that EEOC existed. You know, they labeled the HR in Northwestern, they labeled it the EEO office. And then the government office is EEOC. I thought I was going to EEOC, but no, I was going to just the Northwestern one. What they do is they don't want you to go to the EEOC, because in the EEOC there's like a time limit. I think there's like 180 days or something that you got to complain by, otherwise like it's thrown out. So basically, they never even told me about the EEOC. I didn't even find out about the EEOC until I got fired, and then I contacted my lawyer, and you know, it was just like the EEO over there is just designed to protect the university. Because really, if you experience discrimination and racism at the workforce, you're supposed to go directly to the EEOC. And that's what the state, and then they will conduct their investigation. And then that's what's going to really affect the university. But once you go within the university, they're there to protect the university. So they see you as a threat. They don't want you to go to the EEOC. They didn't tell me nothing about the EEOC. Nothing. You know, they're just like, oh, you know, like what can we do to help? And they're just basically, just trying to contain all the racist incidents within the university, so then the EEOC does not find out. You know, so it's there as a way to just, like, as a decoy, as if this is a safe haven when it's not. I mean, really, they're there to just protect the whole structure of racism. It's there to protect the structure of racism. You know, and like it's just sad. I didn't even know anything about the EOC at all, you know. But yeah, I mean, like being under the radar and just having to be perfect, and basically what they do, you know, they'll let their friends go behind closed doors. You know, their friends make mistakes and then they'll let them go. But then if I make a mistake, it's done. You know, like they'll write me up. You know, I mean, like for example, I got disciplined because I was like 2 minutes late. You know, they verbally disciplined me and said, if you're late again, we're gonna write you up. And then a white officer walks in that's 10 minutes late and they didn't say nothing to him. You know, it's just like that. You know, it's like stuff like that. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You know, I mean, they'll just like find whatever they can. I mean, because I was almost, I mean, I really watched my back, so I didn't really make that many mistakes, but they were watching. They were like, they kept a really close eye on everything that I did. You know, so be like monitored, you know. And basically, it was hard working there because it's like you got people, you know, they're all, and people would like for example, I had a voice recorder that I used to like just basically like rap poetry for my own liking, and an officer found out that I had a voice recorder, and then he accused me of like taping conversations, and he told the supervisor, and the supervisor approaches me about it and says stuff like, you're not allowed to have that. Stuff like that. I mean, the officers were snitching on me over stuff that I didn't even do anything wrong. They're just snitching on me just to snitch on me. And we're not even doing anything wrong. You know, and the officers were basically all like looking at me. Not just the supervisors, but all the officers that I complained against. There was like around seven white officers and supervisors that I had to watch myself from at all times. Because any slip up, they'll tell on me, and then all of a sudden I'm getting like disciplined. You know, so it was bad. I mean, it's like you'd almost like rather not. It's almost like before you even get hired, they should just be like, you know what, we're racist, and you know, you're just not gonna get hired because you're not white. That'd be better. Because then it'll be like, all right, fine, I'll just apply somewhere else. But then they're like, no, they act as if, oh, you know, we're equal employment opportunity and we're accepting of minorities. But then once you get in there, they treat you like shit and they freaking like shit on you everywhere. And then they make your work situation a living nightmare. I mean, really, even though I said that, hey, maybe I would have put up with it, I'm not sure if I could. I mean, there'll become a boiling point where I just can't take it anymore, and I'll just snap at them. So. Really, I mean, you can only take so much verbal abuse. You know what I mean? To the point where you're just like, you know, you're not taking it anymore. I took it for 4 years, and then I finally said something. I took it for 4 years. You know what I mean? Normally, like, I worked with some black officers. They're very, like, assertive. I mean, as soon as anybody disrespects them, they've been checked right away. And I learned from that situation. From then on forward, I learned to stand up for myself quicker. I waited too long. I waited 4 years to stand up for myself. But, you know, I was supposed to stand up for myself immediately. You know, as soon as somebody says something like disrespectful or like just attacking my race, I had to put them in check right away. You know, but because I didn't put them in check, then they all started jumping on the bandwagon. All the white officers started talking all this trash about me. And it just kept compounding. Where they're all teaming up on me. All bashing on me, you know, on my race and stuff. I was like, you know what? I let it get too far. You know, that's what happens. You know, when you're too nice to people, they step all over you. You know, so that's pretty much what happened. You know what I mean? So,
Shadow,
yeah.
Did you have another question? I want to make sure we get everybody. Did you have another question, or did he take care of you?
Just really quick. I wanted to ask that when you were working in such a situation, did you feel? Because I've been in such a situation like what you're talking about. Did the stress of coming to work, did it just negatively affect you emotionally?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had to find outlets for it, and what I did was I wrote a lot of poetry, and I did a lot of rapping. A lot of my rapping was pretty, like, dark. I mean, I was like rapping like a lot like Tupac. I was swearing a lot. I would do, that's why I practice the martial arts. I mean, just like lifting weights, doing push-ups, punching the heavy bag. I mean, that's the way of getting it out. And then, but the lucky thing is, I have a wife, I have kids, and I'm like looking forward to go home because that's where my heaven is. So I go to hell for 8 hours, and I go back home, and then that's kind of like my way to kind of be happy. But I mean, it was really hard going to work. I mean, I go to work and nobody talks to me. Everybody's ignoring me. And then I'm just going to work and I'm just trying to do my thing and everybody's like putting me under high surveillance. It was bad. I mean, the money was good, but then when you go through that, it's just like, it's, well, what, I don't even care about the money. I'd rather just get a job where people accept me and are cool with me and I'll make $10 an hour. That's kind of how I felt. You know what? It's better for you guys to just be honest and just be like, we're racist. We're just not going to hire you. Sometimes I feel like it was better back before Martin Luther King Jr. where they just have signs up like no minorities allowed in here. Okay, fine. Then I just won't go there. Sometimes I feel like it would have been better that way. Rather than the way it is right now, they'd be like, okay, we got to take that sign down and act as if we're accepting of minorities when we're really not. And then when we get in there, they start attacking you like crazy. I mean, not physically, but they attack you like verbally. They attack you like psychologically. Like they psychologically damage you to the point where you don't even want to be yourself anymore. You don't even want to be Chinese. You want to be like something else. You know what I'm saying? And that's very damaging because that lasts for many years, if not a lifetime. Because really, if I didn't find the martial arts, I probably still have self-hatred for my race. But I actually love my culture and my race through many years. And it's sad that you go into a freaking police department and they're like making fun of me as if I'm like they're 5 years old, talking trash about like saying ching chong and chink and all this stuff. I mean, are you serious? I mean, you're a police officer and you got a college degree and you're still making fun of my race like this? The last time I remember that happening was when I was 5 years old. And the little kid made fun of my eyes, like slanting his eyes and stuff, and saying ching chong stuff. That was when I was 5 years old. And then next thing you know, I'm like in my 20s, and I'm experiencing the same damn thing. I'm like, you know what? It's like this world is not even changing. I mean, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X was here, but I mean, racism to me is almost worse than it ever used to be because now it's hidden. Now you don't know who the enemy is. You know what I'm saying? Like before, people put up a sign, all right, no white people allowed. You know that they're the enemy because they already put the sign up. But now, you got to take the sign down. Now you don't know who the enemy is. You know what I'm saying? You don't know who the enemy is. There's the inner Nazi, is what I call it. It's like, and it comes in different races. In my point of view, I mean, when I go to the park sometimes, I mean, I got little black kids coming up to me, like calling me Jackie Chan and all this other shit. It annoys the hell out of me. I can't stand it. You know what I'm saying? But they're little kids. What am I supposed to do? You know what I'm saying? So I'm getting stuff like that at me at all times. I mean, from black people to white people. And it's just like, to the point where I had to live in like isolation to get away from all this. And then I got my YouTube channel, and then you got people typing in some freaking like racist ass comments. I don't even look at the comments anymore. Because people say some stupid ass stuff, Chinese monkey or something like that. Or they say, Chinese people can't lift weights. I mean, say some stupid ass stuff. I mean, there's some racist ass people out there. And, and they're hiding behind a computer screen and you can't do nothing with it. So it all comes out. You see racism all over YouTube. But when you see somebody in the streets, they won't say it to your face. You know what I'm saying? They're too scared to say it to your face. Police department, I was so nice to everybody that they did say it to my face. And they didn't get smashed in the face. They didn't get punched in the face. I didn't punch them. I just took it calm. I was like, whatever. I was like, you know what? I'll let it slide. And then they say it again. I let it slide. They say it again. I let it slide. I let it slide for 4 years. And then finally I complain, and then I get fired. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that job was paying me good money. I had a pension lined up, everything. I had 4 kids. And they fired me. You know what I'm saying? They threw me out in the ditches. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just like a horrible experience. I mean, I'm pissed off at the police. I'm pissed off at the racist people out in this world. And I hate racism with a passion, and you know that's why I like having this YouTube channel, because I could just vent and just be like, you know what, this is some bullshit, but I'm just gonna be honest about it. You know, this is how I feel about it. You know.
Hang tight, Shadow. I want to make sure we get the rest of the folks who dialed in with a question. The person, last 4 digits, 1545. 1545. Did you have a question for Mr. Lee? Your line should be open.
Yes. Good evening, Gus, and good evening to your guest. I've been listening to your guest, and I didn't hear his name.
Freddie Lee, Mr. Freddie Lee.
Okay, Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee, I want to ask you a question. Why are there so many Asian represented in the education system here? I work at one of the best high schools in New York City, and they are highly represented there. And since we live in a system of white supremacy, I know that the system would stop them from getting an education if they wanted to. So do you have any sense of why Asians are allowed to get into some of these really what you call premier institutions like Harvard, Cornell, Brown, Columbia, places like that?
Why they're allowed?
Yeah, why they are allowed. And let me just give you statistics of, now at this good school in New York City, black represent 1%. And I'm telling you, some incredible learning is going on at that institution. And I think Hispanic is about 2%. So, but the rest, the Asian is, I think it's about 50, and whites represent the rest. So could you tell me why they are allowed to get into these institutions? Now, a young man just told you a few minutes ago that he mentioned Wall Street, how black folks start their own business, but every time they start something really good, what happens is someone comes in and destroys it. So what I'm asking you, why are Asian able to get into these institutions? Now, I don't want to rest on the thought that they are extremely diligent, smart, and they work hard. I know that. But what I'm trying to say, why are they allowed to come through this racist system, and there's the other group are lagging behind? Do you have any sense of that?
Well, my feedback is basically, I mean, it's just kind of like, I compare it to the NBA. I mean, it's performance. I mean, why is the NBA dominated by like 70% blacks? It's because they perform in there. I mean, I watched a video not too long ago.
Can I stop you? But let's face it, getting an education is much more important than bouncing a ball, right? Education is much more important, much more valid than bouncing a ball. Okay? I mean, these kids are learning physics, chemistry, all the tools that they need to operate in the world. So, go ahead. Continue to explain what you were saying.
Examples. I'm using that as an example to say that once you get into these universities, they have specific requirements. Like, you have to apply and you have to meet certain requirements. I don't know what the requirements are. You know, that's why people take the ACT or the SATs. I mean, you have to pass requirements to get in, just like medical school or law school. You need to pass certain tests. And whoever passes a test, it doesn't matter what your skin color is, you're supposed to be able to get in if you pass a test. I mean, that's just what it is. So, I mean, if
but they are allowed to develop themselves. This is what I'm saying. And the other groups like blacks, they are not. And I want you to give me an explanation why you think that the Asian are going through. You've got some black people out there who are smart, too, as well. But they are not getting through this educational system as easy as the Asians are.
I mean, I bring it back to the NBA. There's like no Asians in the NBA. Why is that? Well, they're too short to perform. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to the system, maybe the Asians are just better. You know, they're just naturally like good at like book smarts.
Yeah, but I'm not criticizing the Asian. You've been talking about the system, what it did to you, and I'm just trying to figure out whether or not there's a reason from the top that they are letting you guys go through, because they can hinder your progress, you know. They can hinder that if they wanted to. If they didn't want you there, they could stop it. Right? Are we in agreement?
I mean, I've heard somebody email me say something to the effect of where there are Asians that are getting like exceeding the test scores, and then they're not even allowing them in. So I've heard that. But another thing is, when it comes to the Asian international students, I think it's a money thing, because they have to pay more money when it comes internationally. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these Asian students that are coming from overseas, they got to pay like maybe double the price of like if they lived in the States, and that's why they let them in. It's more of a business thing. They're in the business of making money. So if somebody from over here, they're going to have to pay twice as much. And that's why they let them in here, because they want to make the money. It's a business thing.
Yeah, but I'm also talking about the good high schools here in New York City. These kids, their parents are already here. So, and I'm trying to just distinguish why they are allowed to go through and the other groups aren't. That's all I'm trying to. I thought maybe you had your finger on that. And I just want to make a comment. When I'm at that school, if I close my eyes, I don't know who's talking, a white girl or an Asian girl. And you are right. They are copying and trying to be European as much as possible. And the Asian male is being feminized. That's what I see.
Yeah.
Highly. Like in our community, some black men are being feminized. I see Asian men, they are being feminized too. So, but and I think you need to think about that, because you think that we have all this power. Blacks are still not allowed to get an education in this country. And I'll tell you, I've gone to black schools. I'm a school teacher. I had somewhat of the same experience that you had, making a lot of money, and they threw my behind out on my head. And I'll tell you, those schools where blacks are, that black attend, they're not worth it. It's like, we're not being educated. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. Why did they allow you guys to become educated and they still stopping us from being educated?
Well,
that's all.
When I think about it, it could be the community. I mean, say for example, like I live in Chicago, and the Chicago schools are horrible schools, but that's where all the projects are set up. And then you have all the blacks in the Chicago schools.
Go ahead.
You got some like Evanston, where they got a lot more money, or Skokie, where they got a lot more money, so their schools are good. So basically, if you put your family in a good neighborhood, then you're gonna get good education. But because if the family can't afford much, like a nice home, then they're stuck in the bad neighborhood, and then they get poor education. So it's more about like the Asian parents are able to save their money in a certain way to be able to get their children in the right location, and that's why they get access to those schools. I mean,
but black folks, even if they have that money, still there's going to be a problem with them getting their kids into those schools. As I've said before, you guys are being given a pass to these good schools, and I want to know why. Because as I said before, if they didn't want you to get an education, they would stop you. The same way they stopped us for so many years, and they're still stopping us from getting an education now. All black folks need to do is just wake up and know that we're not getting an education. This integration bull, that was baloney. I mean, black schools were better before we integrated. But I fill you with the job situation. As I said before, I went through some similar situation that you went through, and I couldn't get my job back. And that's all I have to say, Gus. Thank you. And thank your guest, Mr. Lee. Thank you for coming on the show.
Appreciate it. Person that dialed in 26. Oh, this is our caller in Florida. Caller in Florida, your line should be open.
Greetings, Gus. Greetings, Mr. Lee.
Hello.
Yes. I was listening to you, and you sounded very passionate on your situation. Do you recognize your experiences of racism, white supremacy, as yourself being a victim of it?
I guess so. Yeah.
Well, I'm just trying to find out. Do you think that makes sense? By being used the different very unpleasant things that you had to go through, that you would identify yourself as a victim. Okay. In that case, I am aware of an author who has put together a book for victims of racism and white supremacy that would kind of like he has suggestions that would perhaps assist a non-white person like yourself on their experiences, so they can have basically improve their understandings of it. Would you be willing to read a book of that nature?
I mean, I would, but I just don't really have much time in my life schedule to even read much. But I mean, it's something that I can mark down and keep in definitely in file, for a time when if I do have more time to read.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure Gus would have information on Mr. Neely Fuller, and he can give you that information on his book is specifically designed for victims of racism and white supremacy, non-white people who are victims of racism and white supremacy. And I didn't want to go forward and call you a victim because some non-white people don't identify themselves as victims. And I think I heard you say that you do identify your experiences as being a victim of racism and white supremacy. And I'm sure that Gus has Mr. Fuller's information, whereas you can get his guidebook, and it would perhaps organize some of your thoughts based on your experiences that you passionately have been talking about on the program today.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Just emailed it to him. For those who did not get the email, producejustice.com, Neely Fuller Jr., his books for victims of racism, white supremacy. Again, producejustice.com, Neely Fuller Jr., great information. You can get the word guide and the code book. Lots of suggestions and definitions. Very important definitions. Person that dialed in, last four digits. Oh, okay, it was 1804. We'll try again. 1804. Still a little static. Whoa.
You're better now?
I can hear you much clearer, but there's still some static on your line. Oh, now I can't hear you as well. Like at first, your volume was high.
Can you still hear the static?
I can hear you much clearer now.
Okay, great. So my question to the guest tonight, welcome to the show. And this is a show where people like you who have had terrible experiences with racism
Volume went back down.
Okay, how about now? Jeff has been holding this show now for years. I just wanted to ask you, what percentage of Asian women are marry non-Asian men, and specifically white men?
I don't know the percentages because I don't really look into that like that. I'm just basing it off on my experiences of like the people that I interact with and what I see around me. So I don't know the percentages.
Okay. I had a very similar experience to you. Hearing you talk about your experience with in the police department reminded me of my own experience. However, my experience was in a different field where Asians actually are more of an in-group than black. That is law. And so I had a job at a firm for several years, and around the same mark that you left, I left too. And HR played the exact same role that you're talking about, where HR was just there to make sure the firm didn't get sued. And so any black person or any non-white person who found that they were specifically whoever went to HR, same thing. They just found themselves more scrutinized, they could make mistakes. So hearing you talk about your experience was like having a flashback, and it's interesting to hear that it's the same experience that an Asian person, I think a lot of black people find that Asian people maybe, they don't think that Asian people go through racism. They don't think that Asian people go through racism in the same way, but it was just stark to kind of see how everything described was very similar to what I had gone through. So thank you for your honesty in describing the phenomena. And I think it's very normal for us as victims of racism to be honest about these things. Sometimes people are ashamed of any non-white people, not just black. It's hard to be honest about these things, and I think that it starts with the honesty. And I can also see that you seem very confused when all this happens. And I think that's part of what the anger is all about, is that indeed, in the way it is now, where we think that we're free, and we think that racism is over, and we think that civil rights happened, and all of this stuff is still taking place. And I think that's because basically after the civil rights movement happened, all that happened is that the system of white supremacy became more refined. It didn't go away, it just became more refined. And so before they could just call you names and get away with it, and everybody knew that they were racist, now they have to act like they're not racist. But then they have to have an HR office that's going to do everything to still do the dirty work of disparaging the victim of racism. So anyway, I know Gus doesn't like comments too much, but I did feel like I had to say this. And I hope that you found this visit to the show constructive. And for me, it was very constructive to hear your experience, because in my field, Asians definitely are taken much more seriously. There are also victims of racism, but they're definitely taken much more seriously than blacks. So your experience was reversed, where you felt like blacks were taken more seriously in the police department. But in my experience, in my field, it was definitely blacks were at the bottom.
I didn't really hear a question, but
I'm done.
I know, man. I don't know. If you had any feedback, if you had a response you wanted to give, that's fine. If not, we had other people who had questions. Do you have a response?
I mean, I'm just thankful for what you said. I mean, I understand where she's coming from, and I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to share some of my experiences, and some people appreciate it. So thank you.
Person that dialed in from a blocked number, your line should be open. Caller from a blocked number.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Greetings, Mr. Lee, and Gus, and Cows, people that are listening and all. I wanted to concur The caller mentioned reading the Code book by Mr. Fuller. Yeah, I was sad that not sad, but if you say you don't have time to read, but I think that's you definitely need to read. You know what I'm saying? Especially like on YouTube. It's pretty interesting. Like you were saying that you're getting all these comments and things like that. You don't want to read the comments and whatnot because they're racist and stuff. That's YouTube, basically, from what I've understood. And even people that put up videos, it seems like they are unread, and they just want to just go on YouTube and vent and give their opinions and blah blah blah. So that ties into my question. I was thinking that like when you started the police, do you think that if you can go back, because there are Asian people listening to the program. Chinese specifically. I don't know if you think you're Chinese or whatever, but that are listening. So you want to learn from your experiences and from your past and stuff like that. And so, do you think that you should have expected, just like with the YouTube comments, and you're kind of tripping off of them, and do you think that you should have gone into that police department expecting what you got?
Do I think I should expect that in the future from now, you mean?
No. I'm saying like learning from your experience. Do you think that when you went into that job or whatever, that you should have expected what you got?
I think, after going through those experiences, yeah, I guess I was just kind of like too unaware about things like this, and I didn't really know, but I feel that people should expect it. It's gonna happen. It is expected. Expect to see a lot of racial profiling. Expect to, if you're not white, expect to be subjected to a lot of racism within the department. Expect, to encounter all of that. Expect to see a lot of corruption. Expect to see, like, people getting mistreated. And expect to see favoritism. Expect to see, like a white person getting promoted, and then you work just as hard or harder and you don't get promoted. Expect all of that. Expect heavy corruption. And learn to deal with it. Whether you guys basically decide whether or not it's worth the money. If the police department is paying you $30 an hour to deal with like this nonsense where people are disrespecting you every so often, are you gonna accept that, or would you just rather get a job that's paying like half the money, maybe $15 an hour, and then you don't really got to deal with that as much? It's up to you. The department's only paying you like $1 an hour more, then you're probably like, what, I'm out of here. So a lot of it is just a give and take. When you get more money, when you get paid more money, you got to put up with more like garbage. And that's kind of like the give and take situation. So you should expect a lot of racism. It's all over the police department. If anything, like they might be the most racist out there because they're trained to be racist. As soon as a police officer's like when they see somebody that's like being an offender, they have to label the person. They don't know the person's name, so they have to be like, it's a white male, it's a black male, it's an Asian male, he's 5'5" or 6 feet tall. They're trained to label people. And then on top of that, they have this complex where they have this power complex in them where they're trained to believe that they're better than other people. This is annoying. Police officers, they become police officers, and all of a sudden, they think that they could just speed whenever they want to speed, like no matter if they're on duty or not, because with it, they expect themselves to be able to drive drunk because they're a police officer, and all they gotta do is flash the badge. And then the police officers let them go. And that's how this world is. and you either become a bully or you get bullied. That's pretty much how it goes. You either get bullied or you become a bully. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
I'm not sure about that. Hey, but I was thinking that that's interesting. I mean, I think that's learning right there. Like, you could tell someone, from, a Chinese person or whatever, that, you can expect if you, go on any job or whatever, that this is what you can expect. This is what happened to me. This is your recommendations on what you can expect. And I think that if you read that book that was suggested by one of the other callers, you will have some ways to counter it. You can counter it just in case you want to get that money. Like you were saying, you keep saying, "Oh, it was good money. It was good money." I think you said that. You said that a lot. You know what I'm saying? So if it was good money, like, you don't want to give up. You might not. I don't know. You might not want to give up the good money, but you can have counters to your, for your expectations. You don't go in blind. Just like you're making YouTube videos and whatnot, and the comments and things. It seems like you were surprised by the comments that you were getting, but there are people that that would have told you that you should have been expecting those type of comments. You feel what I'm saying? But I respect the YouTube thing, because I take some courage, I think, to make videos on YouTube. But I don't know. But what I'm saying is that this is very vital. This is an interesting program and it could be a learning. This could be a lot of learning. But if you don't learn lessons, then it's really just, just a sad story, a confused victim, abused and brutalized and things like that. So I'm just saying, like, consider getting back into your reading. I think that's important. That book that was suggested. And I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Do you think that... I don't even have a question. I can't think of a question. Like, some of the things that you were saying just sound like you need a little bit more knowledge, education, and you could do some good work. I think that's what I'm sensing. But you definitely need some more information. You know what I mean? But what do you think?
I mean, like, I don't really focus on this that much. I mean, really, I read a lot of books that I read are like, I read up on Osho a lot. He's one of the spiritual guys that I highly promote, and he's just basically, it's like spiritual matters. It's talking about meditation. I'm focused on that. I mean, I know the root cause of racism is the system. And really, as long as I see things a certain way and I can basically enlighten myself, that's what I see as important. As far as other people, it's like it has to happen on an individual basis, where they have to wake up and basically not be racist yourself. As far as like controlling the things around me, I don't have too much control of that. And as far as the money is concerned, I mean, I think that's with everything. It doesn't even have to deal with racism, but basically people are paying you. If they pay you enough money, then you become their little, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you become their little dog. You do whatever they want you to do. So sometimes it's not even about racism. It's just about selling out. I mean, like.
Well, I'll just end this right now. Can I recommend that? I think it would be great if you give firsthand accounts of what you have observed, or maybe some stories that people have told you, or from their own experiences and stuff like that, things that you have observed. But as far as giving expounding, as far giving your analysis and opinions and stuff on that, I think that's where you're making your mistake. Because I think you should respect the fact that you really don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think that you might just for a second, until you get some spare time to do some more reading and researching and learning, your opinions. I mean, and your conclusions and stuff like that, man. I mean, it's not helping your people, man. I mean, they sound very uninformed, and That's all I would say. Just give that some thought. Your observations, all of that what you've said is on point, but your analysis and your conclusions and things like your things like that, it's coming from a place where you said that you don't have time to read. Like it's apparent. You feel what I'm saying? So I just wanted to make that suggestion. I think it was a great program. I haven't heard the Cal in a while, and this is very interesting.
It's not that
Mr. Lee.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I don't have time to read. I mean, I read a lot of books, but they're not about racism. I don't see a point of reading a book about racism because I refuse to dwell like so much on that. I mean, I'm reading on things of healing, like meditation, for example.
Yeah, that's that weird philosophy, man. Because like what happens is you run into situations where you get on YouTube and people calling you monkey, and you're getting upset, and you're like, "What the heck? I can't." And, you should already you gotta, man. Listen, you're going to run into this thing over and over and over again. You got to get some knowledge on it. If you're reading about meditation and whatnot, like if it's not talking about racism, white supremacy, man, really it's not talking about anything, nothing. That stuff, man, is not going to help you when you're making your videos and people calling you monkey on the comment board.
But you don't understand what meditation is, and that's where you're wrong. You understand? I mean, you call me that I'm wrong, but really you don't even know what meditation is. So meditation.
I don't know how you came to that conclusion. I think that's part of your problem, man. You jump to a lot of conclusions, but I'll just leave it there, man. Do what you think is right. But it sounds like you're frustrated and you're kind of like reinventing the wheel. You get into these situations and you're not expecting what anybody would expect in that situation.
No, what is meditation? If you know what it is, what is it? What is it? Tell me what it is.
I would just say this, man.
Just tell me what meditation is. Just tell me.
I'm not going to get into that. I don't think the host wants us to get into that. I think it's completely irrelevant to the conversation.
Irrelevant. You don't even know what it is. Please tell me what meditation is. That is
meditation for you might be not to talk about racism, not to study racism, not to think about it. That might be what meditation. I don't know your definition of meditation. I might have my own definition of it. That doesn't mean I don't know what it is. I might not have the same definition that you have of it from your guru or whatever teacher taught you what meditation was. It's probably totally different.
Definition.
Well, we had other people that called in. He said, 909 said he was done with his questions. And moving forward, thank you for calling in. The person that dialed in, 6040. Did you have a question for Mr. Lee? 6040. Your line should be open.
Yeah, I'd like to know how many fucking dogs you've eaten, you cheap, narrow-eyed bastard, you.
See there? Terrorism? Just wait. Person dialed in just to terrorize. And he hung up. I was going to ask a question. But see there? Right there.
To be expected.
Exactly. Waited just to get that in and practice racism, white supremacy. What Mr. Fuller says it all the time. Tacky, trifling, terroristic. That is the interaction between white people and non-white people every day, all day, to be expected. Person that dialed, I guess this is the caller in Florida. Excuse me. Dialed back in. I'm checking to make sure I covered all of the topics I wanted to make sure that I hit on. I guess I did have 1 point, or 2 points. I had 2 points. One, you had, I think you mentioned it earlier today. I think you had said that you're in Chicago, so you said you spend a significant amount of time around black people, and you said that you get racism all the time when you're out. People make comments calling you Jackie Chan and saying China. I think you had a YouTube video where you were saying you were out at the park, and I think you said a 5-year-old black child came up to you and said China, and you responded by saying Africa. I think you had another example where you said that it was a black person, perhaps in your class, who was making comments saying, I think like Jackie Chan is your dad or something like that, and you said you went that you challenged him, and you were saying that you challenge people, and I found that very interesting that the two examples, and this is from your YouTube videos, it's not from today, the exchange that you've had with us on the program, but from your YouTube videos, I found it very interesting that the two examples that you gave of challenging racist behavior directed at you came from black people, and not just black people, but black children. It seemed like in both of these instances, it was younger black people. In one instance, you said it was a 5-year-old. And I want to know, are there examples where white adults have made racist comments and you have directly challenged them? And if so, could you share one of those?
Because I live in a black community, really. There's not that many whites in this community over here. And, actually, one of my students, basically my former student, was talking about stuff like that or whatever, and he was talking about, something that happened on the train, and he's like, using examples, and all of a sudden he said something like, if it's like me calling you a fucking chink or something. I mean, he said that right to my face, and I didn't really, I stayed silent. And then he just figured out there's something wrong. And he asked me, is everything okay? And I just basically said, that's disrespectful. I mean, I'm supposed to be your teacher here, and you're just using that, saying that word as an example. I said you could have made another different example. You didn't have to even say that, And then basically we just went back and forth, and then he ended up stopped training because he didn't feel comfortable anymore. He didn't feel comfortable training anymore. And I told him, you know what? I wasn't mad, but I was just saying, I told him that's just disrespectful, man. I mean, you're just getting too comfortable with me. You shouldn't be saying stuff like that, and then he just, I told him that everything's cool, but then he didn't feel comfortable training anymore, and then he just stopped training. An incident that happened not too long ago, but at the job, it was the whites that it was the whites at the job that mainly were attacking me. But after I left that job, I live in a black community. I interact with mainly a lot of blacks. Some whites, but I didn't really have any whites attack me that I remember recently, though. As far as my race is concerned, not face to face, but I'm sure all over the internet for sure.
Okay. I would echo it. I don't know if that's coming from. See if it's still okay. I don't hear now. Yeah, I can understand that, particularly if you live in an area where you're not around a lot of white people directly. I guess my comment would be, I think you've said many times throughout the program about a lot of Asian people being, the term you use is whitewashed, with regards to the way that they think and speak is to behave like, think like, talk like what they perceive to be white. To act like white people, to speak like white people, do what they see white people doing. And I think most non-white people, if not all non-white people, that's the way we've been conditioned, trained to behave. That's what I mean when I go back to a global system of white supremacy. When you talked about the film Rush Hour with Chris Tucker, that is not a black film. That's not a film that a group of black people sat down and said, we want to finance this film, we want to write the script for this film, we want to go and do the production, directing, make sure that this gets made and distributed, and then make sure that it's seen, do the promotion to make sure that lots of people go see this film, make sure that it's out on DVD and all these other formats, Netflix, so that people can view this over and over and over again, and this becomes a major part of what people consider American culture. What I would say is just racist, white supremacist entertainment, so that everyone thinks it's funny to go up to an Asian person and say, do you understand? Where is it? I mean, exactly what you said. White people promote that sort of racist behavior. I think one of the callers talked about how in different parts of the world now you have Asian people, they see black people in the same way that white people do and have the same sort of racist entertainment geared at black people. And I think that's something that it's important to understand that, number one, and to not view black people especially, because black people are not in control. I mean, that just, films like that do not come from black people. They make a ton of films. The same people that made Rush Hour, they make films making fun of black people, where black people are looking stupid and ignorant and not in control of anything. And people think, oh, that's just black people. Exactly what you touched on before. Black people are criminals and thieves and gangsters, crash, going around sticking up, robbing people. That's what black people do. Carjacking people. That's what black people do. White people are responsible for all of that. So I think it's very important to keep that in mind, particularly if it's black children. Because, I mean, if they're just sitting in front of a television or just getting racist culture, they just don't know. And I think it's important to not respond to them like people, non-white people, who do things that get on my nerves. They've been what you call whitewashed. I try to be a lot more patient and understanding this person is a victim. This is a part of how they have been victimized. So I would do more to try to talk to them in a patient manner to get them to understand, hey, you saying this, you talking or saying that Jackie Chan is my father, try to help them understand why that is incorrect to say and why that, is what white people want. That's the way white people have kind of trained us to think. I think that would be the better way to go about it. I think a lot of times that's what white people want. They want us fighting with one another. They want black people and Asian people and all the non-white people just in conflict with one another. And I think that just helps them maintain their system. That helps just to have more conflict, and none of it's focused on the people who are most to blame for all of this, which is white people. Does that make sense?
I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but like I think it's the power structure. It can't all white people. It's more like the white people that are in control of this world. That call the shots. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's kind of what it is. I mean, like the people that have the billions of dollars that's arranging this whole thing. I mean, I don't think it's like. It's just the average white person down the block. I mean, it's like you're talking about these people that have like billions of dollars and you don't even know their face, that they're arranging all this. So I mean, people in power are creating this, So understand it,
Even if you don't agree, if you don't think it's all white people, and I didn't say it's all white people, but even if you don't think it's all white people, it wasn't billionaire white people who were causing you so many problems on your job as a police officer at Northwestern. Those were just regular average white people who were causing you all of those problems, practicing racism, white supremacy. And that's what I mean. That power differential just between a white person, whether it's just a regular old average white person working at Northwestern University, or whether it is a billionaire white person working at MGM Studios who can greenlight a film like Rush Hour and then Rush Hour 2 and then Rush Hour 3 to just continue perpetuating these racist ways of viewing and thinking about non-white people. Through and through, it is white people all the way down. And I think there should be a different response with regards to white people, since they are the ones who are culpable as opposed to other victims of racism, particularly children. I just thought that was important. I want to make sure I get the other folks to call. I had one other point, I guess a more recent video you did about Jeremy, and then I want to make sure I get the person had a question. I'm just seeing Carl. That's what's up, so I got to go with that. Carl, did you have a question for Mr. Lee?
Yeah, that's me. Hello?
We can hear you, sir. Carl,
okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I just wanted to respond. Yes, I just want to respond that Mr. Lee philosophy of meditating a problem away is characteristic of the Asian way of solving a problem. That they can influence and change the universe through meditation. However, we can see with the domination of Asia by whites and their white supremacy that it does not work. What works is a legal remedy. If he had known about the EEOC earlier, he could have gone to them and they would have addressed this problem. And also during the 1970s, when some Vietnamese in southern Louisiana was having problems with the racism, they went to the NAACP, and they assisted them in resolving their problems with the racists. And then the other thing is that he's crying out for help, but he wants to solve the problem this way. And rather than benefiting from the almost 400 years of resistance that African Americans and Afro-Caribbeans have applied to this white racist problem, and then utilizing that to solve his future problems, because they don't go away. They just get worse. I mean, not worse, but it's an ongoing problem. And that's all I want to say.
Didn't hear a question there either. We have lots of people who call in who are not having questions. That's I try to encourage folks to have questions. It's not don't need an apology, but I do want to encourage folks, if you can put your commentary in the form of a question, I think that would be best. But yeah, did you have a response, Mr. Lee, to his comments, or?
No, I don't. No.
Okay. The caller in Florida, I think we got everybody. Caller in Florida, did you have something else you wanted to get in?
Well, let's ask the question. Would Mr. Lee be willing to consider the method that African Americans have used to solve our racist problem and in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've learned, because I've been influenced by a lot of like black entertainers, and like Malcolm X and Dr. Martin King Jr. and Tupac. I mean, I've been influenced by them, and I've pretty much, the reason why I stood up against all that discrimination and all that racism at that workforce was through their inspiration. And it took 4 years to get me to do that. And then I ended up doing it. It made my life very stressful, but at the same time, it made me a stronger person. And it just made me like who I am today. And basically, if I didn't go through that, there wouldn't even be a YouTube channel, and I wouldn't even be talking to you guys right now. So I mean, like the inspiration of these black leaders going away of where I am trying to fight back, and that's why I make the YouTube videos. That's my way of fighting back. Is like basically expressing to the people the pain that it causes, and then when people watch it, like, dang, I didn't know that it caused that much pain. Hey, maybe I should watch out before I say something to another Asian guy. You know what I'm saying? Because basically, I mean, the people, one of the guys, listeners was kind of attacking me, saying that I'm being too passionate about it. Well, you know what? The passion, the pain, it has to be exposed, and that people actually see that this stuff does affect people. And that you shouldn't just like blatantly say whatever you want to say.
Right. You're right in terms of expressing the pain. Now, I'm a clinical psychologist, and it's good to express pain, but also it is also good to learn how to deal with these problems, and there's a great Tupac and Malcolm and all of them, they are good, but there are people like Neely Fuller, there's Dr. Chris Wilson, and there are many others who can give more direct action solutions to the problem, because
oh my God, stick it in my booty, Timmy, stick it in my booty now.
I think the terrorist dialed back in. That's what I said.
See, that's why I expect them to be what they are. And they never disappoint me to be what they are. And that's one of the things we're trying to share with Mr. Lee, is that and he's doing a good job to come on here, first of all, because I know many Asian people. And I was talking with a friend in the Philippines as I was listening to the show, and that's the typical response, is to go along, to get along, and that's the typical Asian way, and then rely upon meditation or just bound under rather than resisting the problem, the racism, and to understand, number one, these white folks are unrepentant racists. And it ain't not one white person on this planet, or has been on this planet, who is not a racist since the Pope instituted this racism in 1452 AD, when he decided that all non-white people were to be perpetual slaves. And they still have that attitude. And so learning from people like Neely Fuller and Dr. Chris Wilson and Gus Renegade and other folks who come on here is a matter of changing your perception. And number one, that white folks are racist. And they're going to be racist. And then again, Asians are racist. And they need to change that and to see themselves as a non-white people who are being discriminated against and who are being played against other people, other non-white people. And then learning and then applying this and dealing with these problems. Now, what I have noticed is that for the Filipinos in this country, they have lawyers in every city. That if a Filipino got a problem in this country, they have lawyers who will come to their aid right away. Because the Filipinos recognize that there's racism in this country. And they have lots of lawyers who are ready to deal with this problem immediately.
Appreciate the commentary. Did you have a response, Mr. Lee, that you wanted to get in?
No,
Right on. Thank you for the commentary. I did send him the link for Mr. Fuller's material, so you can check that out at his leisure, and hopefully he'll get his hands on a copy and read it when he has the free time, if he sees constructive value in it. ProduceJustice.com. There's one other thing that I did want to get. You had, I think this is one of your more recent videos, Mr. Lee, where you were talking about Jeremy Lin, and you were comparing him, I guess, to Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, both black males, basketball players. Neither of them went to college. They made the jump to the NBA straight from high school. And you were talking about how Jeremy Lin, he graduated from Harvard. It's only a handful, a very small number of NBA players who have got to that level from Harvard University. And just with what I was saying earlier, I was saying that I think it's important that we recognize that we are, all of us, operating within a system of racism, white supremacy, exactly what you said before, total system worldwide. And I think we've all been contaminated with regards to thinking about non-white people in racist ways and thinking about non-white people the way that white people do. And I'm paraphrasing. I had a sound clip. I was going to play it, but just in the interest of being brief, I'll paraphrase. You can set me straight if I make any errors. Basically, in your audio commentary, you were saying you felt like Jeremy Lin was a bit more balanced in terms, hey, he's got an Ivy League degree, and he's playing at a very high level in the NBA. He seems very humble. Some of the interviews that you've seen and comparing him to Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, how neither of them graduated to college and how they may be physically dominant, but mentally they don't have the same strength as Jeremy Lin, that sort of thing. And as I listened, it sounded like the same way that racists talk about black people, particularly saying that, I'm paraphrasing, you're saying that Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, they're not very intelligent, dumb. I'm paraphrasing that they're dumb. And I'm thinking, wow, I don't know these people personally, but I know Kobe Bryant is bilingual. He can speak fluent Italian, like fluent enough that he's gone to Italy and he can talk just the way that you and I are talking about anything. He lived in Italy for a while. They've even had him on games to do Italian commentary. Did you know he can speak fluent Italian?
No.
Okay. Just that sort of thing. Like I said, to me, it reminds me of the way that white people frequently talk about black people and just saying, oh, they're dumb and ignorant. They can't do anything. They can't think. They can't use their brain. All they're good for is running around and flexing their muscles. If you put them on a field, they can run, catch a ball, jump, do that sort of thing, but they can't use their brain for anything. And I'd put it like, if a white person had made the comments that you made in that video, I would be saying, wow, you sound like a racist. And I would be talking to them very different. But you are a non-white person, so I have a lot more patience with non-white people. But that's just something that I would point out. Like I said, I would play the video so folks could hear it, but just in the interest of being brief. Is what I'm saying, does that make sense? Like just that way of talking about particularly black athletes as though they are not smart, not intelligent, they're just stupid. I think you even saying that LeBron James, he struggled to even get out of high school. To my knowledge, his GPA in high school, I checked today, his GPA in high school was over a 3.0. That doesn't sound like someone who had a tough time graduating from high school. Is what I'm saying, is that making sense? I'm saying this is pretty much the way that white people, racist white people, have talked about black athletes for centuries now.
I mean, my point is that he's basically very advanced to be able to get a Harvard degree and then also at the same time be in the NBA. Who else has done that? And everybody's so focused on the accomplishments of, these other athletes, but they don't focus on his accomplishment as far as what he's able to do. They're just so focused on the physical. White or black, it doesn't matter if LeBron James is white or black. If a white person is as good as LeBron James and then he dropped out of high school, well, why did he drop out of high school? I don't care if it's black or white. It's the fact of the matter is, this person dropped out of high school, this person didn't. Harvard.
I don't think LeBron James dropped out of high school. I think he did actually graduate from high school. He just didn't go to college. He went straight.
College. I'm talking about didn't go to college. Sorry about that. Okay. He didn't go to college. He decided not to go. Well, basically, all I'm saying is that this person got a Harvard degree and he went to the NBA, and that should be given a lot of credit, no matter if he's Asian or not. If he's a white person, then he should be getting credit for that. A white person was able to go to Harvard and make it to the NBA. That's a big thing. So I don't care if he's Asian, black, or white. Fact of the matter is, Jeremy Lin. Let's not look at him as a Chinese person. Let's not look at him as a black person or a white person. Jeremy Lin was able to get Harvard degree and get to the NBA. LeBron James, let's not look at him as a black person or a white person or Asian person. LeBron James, well, he didn't even go to college, but he's a lot better than Jeremy Lin. Well, why is that? Because he spent all this time playing basketball. He didn't care about school. So it's not about black or white or Asian. The fact of the matter is, I'm just saying that the society is focusing too much on the physical. Okay. They don't value the education as much as they should, as far as what the NBA values. Because the NBA could very easily say that every single NBA player has at least a bachelor's degree. They could very easily make that rule, but they don't. Their rule is as long as you're 18 years old, you're in. As long as you're good enough. Okay. I was criticizing the NBA mainly about that.
Okay. I just wanted to number one, that's not the NBA rule that you're 18 and you're in. You have to have gone to college for at least 1 year before you can come. They changed it. You can't do that. LeBron James, there'll never be another LeBron James unless they change the rules. You got to go to college at least 1 year before you can go to the NBA now. But you said, very important, you said, let's not look at Jeremy Lin as an Asian male. Let's not look at LeBron James as a black male. The premise of his whole program is that is not the world that we live in. When we look at these people, we identify them. I think that's what made what they call Linsanity. That was a huge part of it. The fact that this was an Asian basketball player. With LeBron James, he's a black male. That's one of the first things. That's one of the first identifiers with him. And I would even say with your video, I watched it. It's about 38 minutes, unless I'm in error. A big part of your video, yes, you did talk about how there is not a focus on appreciation on education. Absolutely. But you also focused a lot, and you've done more than one video talking about Jeremy Lin, about him specifically being an Asian male. You weren't talking about him as though him being Asian didn't matter. I haven't seen you do any other videos on basketball players. You have more than one on Jeremy Lin, and you identify him as an Asian male. So at least in my view, we don't look at him as though he's not Asian. That's a huge part of how we identify him. And specifically, I'm going back to my point because you didn't really address it at all. You could have just done a video and given, accolades to Jeremy Lin. Hey, this guy graduated from Harvard and he's in the NBA. $5 million contract. He's got a documentary film coming out about him. Hey, wowee, let's give him some kudos. Right on, hard work, and not just being about basketball, getting an Ivy League degree and valuing an education. Right on, Jared. You could have done that, but it was tied to these black athletes are stupid. And I mean, you did call them dumb in the video, so I'm paraphrasing, but I mean, that's what you said. It was still trashing, looking down on, and particularly degrading the intellect of black people. And I'm saying that that's something that has been done consistently by white people. I mean, they've done this for years, forever. That's part of the justification for slavery. Black people are dumb. Black people can't think. They can't use their brain. All they're good for is physical labor. You can put them out in the field and they're good for crops or running up and down and jumping, but they can't think. They can't use their brain. And what I'm saying is your video, it sounded very close to that. In fact, I would play it. I'm just in the interest of being brief. There was a portion where you were talking in the video and you said that these people have mass influence. Millions of people see them and want to wear their clothes or their jerseys or whatever products that they endorse, and that these people should not have that much influence. And if they do, they should be educated and they shouldn't just be a bunch of grr. And you stopped, and I was like, wow, what was he going to say? You stopped and you kind of, recollected your thoughts and went on with what you were saying. Do you remember the portion of that video that I'm talking about? Because this is a very recent video.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember the grr part where you said these like ignorant grr? What were you going to say?
Well, I didn't say. I mean, it's just basically like.
Just be truthful. Just being truthful. I appreciate honesty. What were you going to say?
I don't know exactly what I was gonna say. I mean, look. I mean, I don't know what are you coming here? I mean, are you trying to like label me as a racist?
Absolutely not. I think I said.
I mean, just like. I mean, basically, you're having me on a guest on the show, and then all of a sudden you're just like trying to label me as a racist.
I did not call you.
I mean, it's like, fact of the matter is, I mean, people are asking me questions about Jeremy Lin, and that's why I made the video. I'm responding to somebody.
Right. I did not.
I view everybody as a human being. But other people, they view it otherwise, and then I have to basically communicate based on the way these other people view the world.
Mm.
But I'm trying to like just use people's names opposed to their race. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a fact that LeBron James didn't go to college and he didn't graduate. It's a fact. I'm not saying that all black people didn't go to college. I'm just talking about LeBron James. And I have the right, if I wanted to criticize LeBron James, why can't I do that? I'm not criticizing all black people. I'm talking about LeBron James. I didn't bring your name into it or anybody else. I'm talking about LeBron James.
Right.
So how are you telling me that I'm like criticizing all black people that they're stupid? How are you gonna tell me that I actually think that way? Are you kidding me? I just gave credit to like Tupac and Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I'm praising black people, but then all of a sudden you're talking. I said that LeBron James didn't even go to college. I criticized that.
Mm. Number one, it's very important. I did not call you a racist. I'm just saying. I just criticized one human being. I'm not saying that all black people are this way. I didn't say that either.
All I did was just basically say that like Kobe Bryant and LeBron James, they didn't graduate from college.
Right.
Okay. But Jeremy Lin did not just college, but he actually was from Harvard. That was an eye opener for me.
Right.
That was just my view, my opinion on it. It was an eye opener. It's not just a regular college. It's actually from Harvard.
Right.
There's a bunch of people that graduate from college, but from Harvard and to make it to the NBA, to me, that's a big thing. And I just want to express that, and that's it.
I understand that. Number one, I did not call you a racist. That's very important. That's what I talk all the time. Words are very important. I did not call you a racist. At any point, did you hear me say, Mr. Lee, you are a racist?
I mean,
just a yes or no answer to that, because this is important.
I'm saying.
Did you at any point hear me call you a racist?
I'm not comfortable with the way this interview or whatever this thing is going right now. So I mean, if I'm supposed to be the guest, I mean, basically you're basically trying to argue with me on the show. It seems like.
No, not at all. Not. I hope you do not.
We don't see things the same way. You understand?
Right.
Like we don't see the same things the same way. The book that you're reading and you're promoting, I wouldn't read that book because that's not what I don't focus on that. You know, that's why I'm Asian and I'm not black. I'm not black. Okay, right. So you don't understand my side. You know, and basically that's why it's hard for us to communicate right now because you don't understand my side. You know, and that's just all it is. I mean, I read totally different books than what you're promoting. There's no way I would read that book.
Okay. Well, I'm not talking about the book right now. This is a video that you promoted, right? And I did not call you a racist, and you didn't answer my question. That was important too. Did I at any point say, Mr. Lee, I think you're racist?
All right, I'm basically gotta go right now. I mean, this is getting too long.
Okay,
I mean, I got my family at home and stuff like that.
That's fine.
So
I appreciate the time that you did spend with us, Mr. Lee. I guess before you go, I would really appreciate it if you could answer that question, though, because, you know, I do try to have courteous dialogue, and I hope you don't feel that I've been attacking you just because, you know, I did want to discuss the video that you made recently. Did I at any point say that you're a racist, Mr. Lee?
Indirectly. Because you're implying, I mean, you obviously took offense from the video.
Okay, I don't remember saying offense
either. The way
either.
you're structuring your questions, you obviously took offense to the video.
Okay, no problem. I appreciate you answering that question. Folks, his YouTube page, again, is Freddie's Modern Kung Fu. Freddie's Modern Kung Fu. You can check out the YouTube channel. You can check out the video that I'm talking about specifically, where he talks about, it's called Jeremy Lin, Asian American Racism in America. Even the title of the video kind of suggests what I was saying, that we don't look at Jeremy Lin as just a human being. His racial classification is important. But at any rate, thank you for sharing time with us, Mr. Lee, and I wish you the best of success and continue your effort to counter racism.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good evening. I am going to play the video. I'm going to play that clip because it's important now. If folks thought I was being discourteous or rude, that's fine as well. I do want to point out again, I did not call him a racist. I am going to play the audio clip because I think it is important. And then if people think that, you know, maybe I didn't hear it correctly, I am a victim. Have been retarded, so maybe I didn't quite hear it correctly. Maybe I misunderstood or mistook what he was trying to convey in the audio clip. He said the point of it was just, hey, recognize Jeremy Lin, right on. He went to Harvard and all that. This is his video, and this is recent. Like, he did this video in the last 24 hours, so you can check it out. This is about 6 minutes, so you can just deal with the length of the commentary and make an assessment for yourself. Freddie Lee talking about, and make sure that you listen specifically for the part where he says "gur," he stops himself and then he inserts a different word. I thought that was important too, just for what it suggests he might have had in mind to say. But this is Mr. Freddie Lee. He's talking about Jeremy Lin and so-called Asian American racism.
All right, somebody sent me an email asking me about my opinions on Jeremy Lin. I don't know too much about the guy, but I did hear a little bit about him. I saw some videos with him. I know just some general information about the guy. So he's an NBA basketball player, and he's just somebody, Chinese guy, and he's somebody that's just was just a bench warmer, didn't really get much playing time, and he played for the New York Knicks, and all of a sudden, you know, I think their point guard got hurt, and then they just threw him in there, and as soon as they threw him in there, they just went on some crazy winning sprees because he was just playing so well. He just came out of nowhere, just basically balling everybody up, playing very well, and then he just gained became like nationally famous because of this type of what happened. They just underestimated him completely. He basically also graduated out of Harvard University, and is in the NBA. I mean, that's freaking ridiculous right there. I mean, somebody, not only is he in the freaking NBA, but he also graduated from Harvard. That is crazy talent. Because not only is he physically capable, but he's like intelligent, intellectually highly advanced, and also spiritually. Because you see his interviews, he's very humble and modest with everything. Like, he has like no sort of like aggression and competitiveness and ego and pride. I mean, he's really humble about his achievements and everything. He's a good guy. Strong spirit, very intelligent, physically capable. He's like an NBA martial artist. You know what I'm saying? It's just that it's a give and take. You know, he's more of a balance. Whereas you got somebody like LeBron James, freaking didn't even go to college and went straight to the freaking NBA, no college degree, probably barely able to even graduate from high school intellectually, but then his physical is all the way up here. You know, and his spirit's probably down there too, but his physical is all the way up here, and then his intellect is all the way down here, and then his spirit and the intellect's here. Jeremy Lin's more of a balance, where it's like right here. Physical, intellect, spirit, which is more balanced, which is what a martial arts should be. You know, but LeBron James, for example, and Kobe Bryant, I mean, they're not intelligent people. They're not spiritual people. Even Michael Jordan is not spiritual. Or even, I wouldn't even say he's intelligent. You know what I mean? Definitely none of them could freaking graduate from freaking Harvard. That's for a fucking fact. You know, and basically, as much as LeBron James is able to destroy Jeremy Lin on the court, Jeremy Lin would destroy LeBron James in the intellect and the spirit. He'll fuck LeBron James up like nothing in the intellect and the spirit. But as far as like the physical, LeBron James is just like, you know, over the top with that. But that's what the society values, and I say, shit, they should have the NBA to encourage more intelligence and spiritual growth as a requirement to get to the NBA. They should require them to all have a bachelor's degree, if not a PhD. They should require all of them to have a PhD before they can even get in the NBA. But no, you know, they allow people straight out of fucking high school, dumb as fuck, playing ball in the fucking NBA, and then now they're getting all this worldwide fame, but they're stupid as fuck, dumb as shit, a fucking brick for a fucking brain, you know, like a fucking Mike Tyson or a freaking LeBron James. I mean, stupid people leading the fucking world towards more stupidity. You know, but where the fuck is the intelligence? You know, but you got somebody, I mean, Muhammad Ali was actually pretty intelligent. But everybody else that boxes is fucking dumb as fuck. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, these people, to be representing a high level of athleticism and to influence so many millions of people in this world, they should have some intelligence. And it would be nice if Jeremy Lin had more fame. But I don't know what happened, but from what I heard, you know, he just got traded to the Houston Rockets, and then now nobody really cares about him. I mean, I don't even know why he decided to get traded. He was doing really well in New York, getting a lot of fame and getting a lot of attention. He was in the spotlight. And all of a sudden, he gets traded to Houston Rockets, and now you don't even hear nothing about him. And from what I last heard, he was on the bench. And the only reason why he's starting now is because the point guard is hurt. So this guy's not even a starter, originally a starter. He's just still on the bench. You know, and he had all his fame and attention, and then all of a sudden, it's all gone, and he's with the Houston Rockets, and it's like he's not even there anymore. And I think that he needs to be more well-known, like a LeBron James or a Kobe Bryant, because he has intelligence and he has spirit, and that's what this world needs. They don't need a bunch of fucking dumb fucks leading the fucking world towards like further mass destruction.
All right. The video, as I said, it's about 38 minutes. It's very long. And that's just the first 6 minutes. I hope people heard in that last segment there where he said a bunch of dumb grr. Now, I don't know what he was going to say. That's why I asked him, just be honest. I wanted to hear what he was going to say. To me, it sounded like he was going to say a bunch of dumb gorillas, but I could be wrong. There's certainly other words, although I would be curious as to what you could fill in there. A bunch of dumb grr. I don't know. I don't know what would fill in there, but it sounded like it could have been going to dumb gorillas, but maybe I'm wrong. And that's why I just wanted him to say, what were you going to say? He said he remembered that part of this video. He did it yesterday. So, I mean, it's not like this is ancient history. This is a video from yesterday. And I was very curious to know what he was going to say. He wouldn't share. Maybe he didn't remember. maybe it was just a slip. Maybe he wasn't going to say anything. Maybe he wasn't going to say dumb gorilla. But even if the gorilla part was not there, my impression from that portion of the video, or from the video overall, because I listened to the whole thing, was that black people, even if it's, hey, this whole video is just, hey, I'm an Asian male. I think one of the callers touched on it, Asian males being effeminized. I think that's true. I don't see a lot of positive images of strong, masculine Asian males. Accurate. Jeremy Lin, one such, and he has a Harvard degree, and I want to give some kudos to him. That's fine, but I got the strong impression that those kudos had to come at the expense of black people. If we're in a system of white supremacy, it's not dissing other white people. It's got to be Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Mike Tyson. All of them are whack and stupid as bricks. And Jeremy Lin is great. He's intelligent, he's smart, and he can ball in the NBA. He should be getting more attention than these dumb, ignorant, college dropout black athletes because he didn't name any white people. And I just, in my opinion, the whole reason that I brought that up, if we're going to say that, certain groups have been whitewashed, that's true. But I think that would be accurate for everyone, all of us, Gus T Renegade included. And I think just, hey, let's be patient when we deal with one another. He made videos where he talked about a 5-year-old black person, a 5-year-old black person, a 5-year-old black child coming up to him and saying, China. And he said he retaliated. He said he gets angry, and I'm not going to show lenience to anyone. Even if it's a child that comes up and makes a racist comment to me, I'm going to retaliate. He said, I think he shared on the program, or I said he had a black child that was in his program in the studio who was saying, your dad's Jackie Chan. And he responded, if they're black children, maybe you could have some patience. Maybe they've been, contaminated just like the rest of us, just like even you. Maybe you could have a little patience in dealing with these black people when they make these comments, because even you have been contaminated. As I say, if a white person had made that video that I just played, the audio that you just heard, oh my God, I would have went to town on them. Just like, man, you sound like Jimmy the Greek. You just sound like an out and out racist, which is what I expect. But I would have went to town on them. I attempted. My goal was to be as courteous and polite as I could in broaching that. But it felt very anti-black. It felt like if I'm going to give Jeremy Lin some compliments or some kudos, it's going to come at the expense of these black people. Particularly that slip right there. I don't know what it was. He didn't divulge that, what he was going to say. It sounded like he was going to say gorillas, which, I don't know. But I could be wrong. I could be very, very wrong. Before we wrap up, I will check the people that, hung out on the lines who heard that clip. Check me. Do not, Gus is ignorant. I make errors. I am a victim of white supremacy, and I have been retarded too. So maybe I didn't hear it right. Maybe I was I was distracted when I heard the video. Maybe. What did you all think about that last clip? And also you can give your comments about that. And then specifically, what do you think he was gonna say when it went to Gurr and he stopped himself and kept going? The people that dialed in, your line should be open. Let's see. Folks that dialed in, line should be open.
Oh, this is Carl.
Mm-hmm.
You hear me?
Yes, sir. We got to be brief because we only got about 7 minutes, so you got to be brief. We don't have time for a lot of soliloquies. Just The clip.
He was going to say gorilla, and if I had heard this earlier, I would not have called in suggesting or anything, because that's the typical Asian view toward African American people. And I'm through.
Okay.
He was going to say gorilla. And, you know,
I would agree.
If he was still on the phone, I would have said, what if I was to say all Asians look like they have Down syndrome? You know what I'm saying?
No.
Right. Well, that's what they used to call Down syndrome, Mongolism. Before they changed it to Down. It was called Mongolism.
Anybody think he was not going to say gorilla? We can do that real quick. Anybody think he was not going to say gorilla?
Can I get heard?
Yes, sir.
It did seem as if he was going to say gorilla, but, you know, if we were to choose other words, we could probably say, you know, grape or great something. But I just want to make one point real quick since we're low on time. I did notice that when he spoke about the movies about Jackie Chan and Jet Li, that he sort of isolated himself from people who are from China as opposed to people who are Asian American and born in this side of the world. And the video clip that you played, he sort of made it seem as if the NBA is sort of, and he made the NBA and Harvard to be as if that was the standard, as if that's the place to be and to get to, as if that's the standard as opposed to that's a white supremacist institution, and we should, you know, be wary of people that come from those institutions. And that's all I have to say.
Got about 4 minutes. Go ahead. 4 minutes left.
Oh, greetings, Gus. This is 404. I just called in at the tail end, and I'm like you. He was about to say gorilla, and I was about to say to ask him why it is that he's living around black people. If he feels this negatively about black people, and he has all of these things to say about our lack of intelligence and everything else, why is it that he always finds himself living among us? It's like the same thing with white people. They hate us, they despise us, but some or the other, they always want to always be up under us as some sort of blanket, and they feel this way about us. He sounds just like a typical white person. And that is why it shows us that we also think we can form alliances based on so-called people of color. Black people, we can't form alliances amongst ourselves. We have no so-called friends out there. He sounds just like a typical white person. That's why he ran off the phone.
No, for you know, that's valid. The thing is that the experiences that he had, his observations and whatnot, I found those interesting. But then when he started talking about how he doesn't have time to read, and then he went in and extra was like, I would never read that, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, you can kind of see the damage, you know, so I think we can learn something. I think we can learn a lot from the interview. I found it interesting, you know, very interesting, and I don't think I think a lot of things that we should expect happen, and yeah, I concur with the person that said that he was going to say gorilla, but also the part where he said that clip earlier would have changed my comments also.
Can I be heard?
It is what it is. Yes, sir.
It sounds like all through the interview that he already had his mind made up on a lot of things involving the system of racism, white supremacy. When I made a suggestion about to study, my suggestion was just based on that. That's the only article that I know about Mr. Fuller's code book that specifically it designed on what he was complaining about. But maybe in my ignorance, my ignorance of being a non-white victim of racist white supremacy, that perhaps really his frustration is based on that he got a dose of racist white supremacy, and that's primarily on the reason why he's kind of like bent out of shape about things. And first of all, his vocabulary was laced with a lot of cursing, and that kind of like tells me something about
lack of intelligence.
A person. I don't know if it's that or not. You may be right, but it's laced with a lot of profanity, and I find it kind of like disrespectful. Coming on the program to do that, and I think he had an understanding it was a non-white black person's program, and so he, he's a victim of racist white supremacy, but nevertheless, maybe he needs to get more dosage of the system of racism before he comes to the point to where he does look for some answers outside of his own thinking.
He had his own agenda to push. I'm going to say this. He had his own agenda to push when he came on this program. He's
Yes,
like
ma'am.
one of those people who felt that, okay, white people are not bothering me. I'm somewhat in their corner. They give me a free pass, so therefore, like everyone else, let's gang up on these niggas over here so they could keep the heat off of me. That's how they act. You see it with a lot of the East Asians and all these other people that comes over here. Let's get on the niggas. Let's make them our focus so that white people would keep off of my butt.
You came in kind of late, 404, but he did give some examples of where white people were really giving him a hard time, like torturing, psychologically torturing him due to the fact that he was confused and didn't know what he was getting into. So I don't know. YouTube is interesting, so people just get on that thing and just talk. It's kind of funny. I'm sorry, it's 9 already, but I was like, man, YouTube, you got to be so careful and so really have high integrity to get on a forum like that. But what I've noticed is that's my thing with the YouTube. I was like, man, I can't get on there and be irresponsible. But what I've noticed is that seems like a haven for irresponsibility and things like that. So I think that's a pattern that I've observed.
If you're bashing black people, they don't mind getting you up on there and getting you a channel and letting you run your mouth and do whatever you want to do. But the minute you talk about Jews or gays or homosexuals or whatever, they're going to shut your channel down.
I knew once he was challenged. On some things that he put on YouTube without me even listening to it, but based on what Gus was saying that he was portraying in that YouTube YouTube program that he put on, that I knew he was going to end up leaving because he was kind of like found out, from that standpoint, revealing on why he really wanted to come on the program. Because that's what I was going to ask him. What and I was going to ask for honesty on his behalf what was his real purpose for acknowledging and coming onto the program, and I think he basically was exposed, and that's why he decided, okay, I'm not getting no more out of this than what I wanted to get.
He's a victim of racism, white supremacy, and he made that clear earlier in the interview.
Hey man, that'll be a nice spot to end on. I will say, I think the interview would have gone very different if I had started with that clip, which I absolutely could have. I'm pretty convinced. If I had to give I'd say like 99%. I'm about 99% he was going to say gorilla. With the context, with everything else that he said, even if I'm trying to think of other words that would make sense to fill in right there, grape wouldn't really make sense. Garage wouldn't really make sense. It's not a whole lot that you could stick right there that would make any sense with regards to what he was saying. That maybe it was just a slip. Maybe he realized, oh, wait a minute, that's not what I wanted to say, and what have you. But with the context of everything else that he said about black people in that clip, and I think that's why he got so defensive, because I didn't call him a racist. I didn't say that he was putting down the intellect of black people. I would say his reaction, that might have been the biggest piece of evidence of all with regards to what he said, what he thought, just his response. He wouldn't even answer my question when I said, did I call you a racist? He wouldn't even answer the question. So he is a victim of racism, white supremacy. If anything, I would say this is another illustration of why I make a distinction. Not everybody who is not white is black.
Right.
Non-white, non-black is a very critical distinction. Mr. Fuller doesn't agree with that. That's fine. He's a victim of racism too. I got VGQ, so does he. We don't agree right there. I think that is a critical distinction, and I think he even made that clear before he exited. He is not a black person, even though he started off saying how much he identifies with black people. I think he even said at the very beginning he's Asian but black on the inside. By the time we got to the end, he made it very clear, emphatically, I am not black. And I agree. He's still a victim of racism, but he is not black. And that has huge implications in the system of racism, white supremacy. The enemy is still white people. We got a lot of problems. And if anyone thought I was being discourteous or rude, you could let me know that as well, because that was not my intention. I honestly just wanted to know what he was going to say right there. If he had, said I was going to say they're gorillas. We don't need these stupid gorillas running, things. That would have been great too. I'd have just said, okay, thank you. I appreciate the honesty. And that would have been good.
Like this.
No, you were being very polite, Gus. You weren't that rude. He was the one who showed his butt at the end when he ran out of here and got off that phone, because he knew he got found out when he used the word gorilla, because that's exactly what he was about to say. He was about to call him a gorilla.
I wonder what would have been his reaction about the African immigrants that come here that outperform almost every immigrant that comes to America. There need to be a Black People's for Dummies book, because there have so many people out there that have false misconceptions about black people that needs to be addressed.
Jenks Morton, he has a lot of that information in his book, where he's talking about a lot of those false representations of black people, that we're ignorant and every black male is gay or on the down low and not in college and all this other stuff. He has a lot of information to debunk those racist ways of thinking. Jenks, and he's been on the program as well. We talked about that. Jenks Morton, he was on the broadcast in 2010. Anywho, we did a little bit of overtime and everything. We'll be back on Friday. The final segment on 12 Years a Slave, normal broadcast time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Looking forward to wrapping that up this Friday.
Hey, Gus, quickly, I have a guest for you if you can get him on. His name is Craig Stephen Wilder, that wrote that book, Ebony and Ivy, that talks about blacks.
Yeah.
Please see if you could get him on the show.
Right on. He's been requested several times. I've been seeing him. He's been on a lot of different folks' programs. But I do think it would be constructive. I think he would be good to have on the program, too. We'll see if we can knock that out. Appreciate that, 404. Power plug, anybody on the wish list? Power adapter, that would definitely be appreciated. Amazon.com, the wish list. Gus T Renegade, you'll see it. MacBook Pro power adapter, that would be grand to continuing the efforts. And I'm serious about that. If anyone thought I was being rude, discourteous in any way, shape, or form, definitely let me know, because that was not my intent in talking. It was just to reveal truth, because I think that is important. We need truth. We need honesty if we're going to solve the problem of racism, white supremacy. And if you have any confusion or you can't find an archive, what have you, you can email me about that too. untiljustice@gmail.com, on Twitter @untiljustice. Thanks all for tuning in. Thanks for the questions and the feedback. Anybody want to do the prayer to wrap things up?
I do.
Right on. Justice, her blog, justdojusticetoday.blogspot.com. justdojusticetoday.blogspot.com. I'll put that video on my Facebook page so you can check it out. You can watch it yourself to see what he has to say about black. I think once you get the context can give you a lot of clarity sometimes. I'll put it on my Facebook page and I'll tweet it so you can check it out and come to your own conclusion. If you have feedback about that, you can email me that as well. Thanks for tuning in, and be as safe, stay warm, stay constructive. The caller who was going to do the prayer, take it away.
Dear Creator, we need you. We need your energy. We are tired as non-white people being marginalized and hated on. Please give us a sign so that we can end white supremacy. Ashe.
Ashe. Context of White Supremacy. Signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
I'm a victim, brother.
Problem. You're a victim.
I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.